Wolfgang versus Haganase. Prize has been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Wolfgang, you own a dog.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a dog do you have?
It's a German Shepherd.
Do you have a picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it?
You're certain.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Rather unique.
He is indeed.
You are suing the defendant because you claim that her son, I assume this little boy, falsely accused your dog of biting him.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
As a result of that, your dog was quarantined.
For 10 days.
You have some vet bills for the quarantine, and you had some attorney's fees.
That's correct.
And you want his mother to compensate you for
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Now, I gather on the day of this incident, you were not at home.
No, ma'am, was not.
On what day was this incident?
It was in April. I don't know the exact date.
Do you?
The 15th.
And do you live alone, sir?
No, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
My wife.
Does she work?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were both gone during the day?
My wife was out of town. She wasn't even in the state of Georgia.
Okay. And what's this dog's name?
Rocket.
Where is Rocket?
We have a big 2-car garage. He has a big, large kennel, constant feeder, and one of those constant water 5-gallon jugs, and he's got life pretty good in there.
So when you leave in the morning, you put him out into the garage so that he can't get into the house?
Take him out, and then leave him in the garage.
And when you get home from work, does he come into the house? Is he a house dog?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't leave him in the house. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
We're afraid of what might happen. I mean, he's a 110-pound full-grown German Shepherd. I wouldn't want him to have full run of the house while nobody's at home.
How old is he?
He is 5 years old.
You don't live close by to the plaintiff. You were visiting someone?
Yes, my boyfriend.
And how far away does your boyfriend live from Mr. Wolfgang?
It's around the block. He lives in like a cul-de-sac, and then Joey lives in another cul-de-sac, and it's around the block.
And your son was out playing?
Yes.
Was he out playing alone?
He went to a friend's house to see if she could come out and play, and that is Mr. Wolfgang's neighbor. And
So you spend time there?
yes,
In this
yes,
neighborhood?
ma'am.
What's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua, you want to come up here and talk to me for a minute?
Okay.
Right up here.
There you go.
How old are you, Joshua?
7.
You go to school?
Yes.
What grade are you in?
First.
Did you go to kindergarten last year?
Yeah.
Can you read?
A little bit.
Okay, well, that's very good as a starting first grader. Now, Joshua, do you remember last April when something happened with a dog?
Yes.
Tell me where you were.
I was going to my friend's house.
Did you walk there by yourself?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
When I went to the house and she couldn't play, I went back out and the dog was out of the garage and I was going to take a shortcut and the dog
How are you going to take a shortcut?
through the yard.
Through the yard where the dog lived?
Yes.
That's not the way you got there.
No.
Had you ever taken that shortcut before?
Yes.
And everything was okay when you went through the yard?
Mm-hmm.
Dog didn't bother you?
No.
Had you ever seen the dog before?
Yes.
Is this a picture of the dog?
Yes.
Now, you said the dog was out of the garage. How did you know the dog had been in the garage?
Because the garage was closed and I heard it banging on the door and barking.
And is that when you were knocking at Sammy's door?
Yes.
Now, when you decided to take the shortcut, you say you saw the dog. Where was the dog?
It was near the garage, in the grass right here, close to Sammy's house.
So you were going to go into the yard even though you saw this dog there?
Yes.
You weren't afraid of the dog?
A little bit.
What happened with the dog?
He ran over and bit me
Where did he bite you?
on my leg.
Did he bite you or just jump on you?
He jumped on the grass and then bit me.
Did he cut your skin?
A little bit.
Was it bleeding?
Not that much.
Or was it bleeding at all? Or were you just frightened?
Kind of both.
Kind of both. Okay, Joshua, go and sit down. When your son found you that day, was his leg bleeding?
A little bit, yes.
Was it from a scratch or a bite? Because if a dog like this bites him, you're not talking about a little dog. You're talking about a dog that if he bit him,
Right.
it could have caused some serious damage.
Right.
So was it a scratch?
He had like maybe 3 or 4 scratches and then kind of a puncture on the leg, and his pants were torn. He had come into the house and was crying, and I looked down and he had wet his pants, and I was like, what's wrong, you know? And of course I'm freaking out because I have no idea what's wrong. And he's like, the big white dog got a hold of me. He said that he just got him on the leg, and I guess it went through his pants and kind of drug him a little bit. And he said someone had come and cracked the door open and called the dog's name, and when the dog looked up, that was Joshua's opportunity to run away, and that's what he told me.
You have any reason to doubt that story today?
No.
So?
There was nobody there that could have possibly have let the dog out in the first place, much less called him in. Have an incident report from Gwinnett County Animal Control.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. And he states exactly that there was nobody there when he got there.
That doesn't mean there was nobody there. That means there was nobody there when he got there. How do you think that happened to his leg?
I have no idea.
According to this report, there were several children in the neighborhood, sir, who said that your garage door was open and that somebody from inside the garage called your dog after the child was bitten.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what it says.
I know that's what it says, but there was nobody there.
Well, that's what you say. I don't know that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
when I told her, Evelyn, I want the truck back, you don't have the money to pay for it, she goes, well, you're not taking this truck. I'll shatter every single window in that truck. And she ran outside and shattered the back window.
Can't do that.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Wilfong says his dog was wrongly quarantined due to a false report by Mandy Hoganase. Mandy says Stephen's German Shepherd bit her 7-year-old son in the leg.
Now, I can't make a determination, sir, that nobody was home.
I have records showing that my wife was out of state.
Sir, I don't care whether your wife was out of state.
Okay.
Somebody, sir, let the dog out. Maybe it was a neighbor's child. Your garage door is unlocked, so somebody can go and open the garage door from outside.
I know nobody was in my house.
Well, I don't know that,
And
sir.
I
This
know
is a
that
court.
dog
I'm not
didn't get out.
clairvoyant. I'm telling you what the evidence is. The evidence is as follows. I have testimony from this little boy supported by physical evidence, by his mother and animal control, that he was in fact bitten by a dog. Not viciously bitten, not seriously bitten, but bitten by a dog. I have this little boy telling me that it was a large white dog from your house who bit him. I have neighboring children who tell animal control and evidence that you gave me, not she gave me, that it was your dog and someone opened the garage door and brought the dog back inside after the child was attacked. And you expect me to say, well, okay, you say nobody was at home. You weren't home.
Nope.
That's the evidence. I have to make a judgment. I have to make a judgment by a preponderance of the evidence whether or not you can sustain your case. And you cannot, because you have no evidence other than the fact that you were at work and your wife wasn't home.
My wife was out of town.
And that's what you tell me.
That's right.
I believe him. And I believe this. So your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nobody wants to see a small child get bit.
I don't think it was a severe bite.
I felt bad for him, but I seen the little boy that night.
I think he was just really scared.
I don't think it was by my dog.
I mean, it's a big dog. It's very scary.
It didn't look like a dog bite
I just don't want it to happen again.
from no 110-pound dog to me.
Yeah, I'm glad everything's okay.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Woodall versus Cruz. Step forward, please.
Truck driver Evelyn Woodall is suing her son, Arnold Cruz, and his wife, Annie Cruz, for the return of money she paid for a truck. The couple is countersuing for vandalism to the truck in question.
Miss Woodall, is this your son
Yes,
and his wife?
yes,
According to your complaint, there came a time when you were living with them
yes,
and you needed a new vehicle.
yes,
And you agreed to purchase a truck of theirs. And the agreement was that you would make $400 a month payments,
Correct.
maintain the insurance until the truck was paid off.
correct,
You made payments, according to you, faithfully, with the exception of the last one that
Correct.
was some sort of a problem. And your daughter-in-law and son repossessed the truck.
correct,
You want all the money that you put into it.
correct.
And your son and daughter-in-law say that you missed a payment, that you did not maintain the insurance as you should have, and that you did not keep the truck in good repair, as a result of which they have to have it repainted and refixed, whatever, and they are counterclaiming for that amount. When did you purchase the truck?
February of the 15th of 2004.
And what was the purchase price of the truck?
They sold it to me for $6,500.
What year truck was it?
A 96.
What was the Blue Book value of the truck?
I think it was $3,500 or $4,000.
So why did you agree to pay him $6,500?
Because I didn't have good enough credit to go out and buy my own.
Was the Blue Book value of this truck $3,500?
No, it was not.
What was it?
It was 72 when we pulled it up. 7,200.
Was that in excellent condition?
Excellent condition.
Was the truck in excellent condition?
Yes.
When you say that, you're looking up at the sky when you say yes.
Well, because there was a debt that her son had put into the truck.
So it wasn't in excellent condition?
No.
Well, what was the value of it if it wasn't in excellent condition?
The last time I looked, it was in fair
Well, maybe
condition.
we can find out. Bird, do you want to see if you can get me a Kelly Blue Book on this truck? Sure. A 1996 what?
Chevy S10.
Be right back.
Thank you. Okay. While Bert is doing that, you agreed to pay them $6,500. And how much did you make in payments altogether?
$3,900 with a balance of $2,600.
Okay, $3,900.
Correct.
Is that correct?
3,100.
You have receipts for $3,900?
It could be.
$3,100?
Yes.
Okay. Your daughter-in-law seems quite sure of herself when she says $3,100.
Yes.
Leaving a balance of $3,400.
That's right.
What do we got? Chevy S10, 1996.
Fair condition.
Mm-hmm.
$900.
$900?
That's what it says.
How about in medium condition?
Good condition is $1,300. Private. You want private party?
Yeah.
Okay. $2,300.
Would you show them, Bert, so that they don't think that you're fooling them?
So no 4-cylinder?
Yeah, but extended
Long
cab's
bit.
down here. It has to be
Oh,
extended
you
cab.
didn't tell me it had an extended cab. Come
It's
on,
an
work with
extended
me
cab.
here. All right. Okay, so here's the extended cab down here.
Okay.
All right.
32.
$3,250. Go. $3,250, Judge.
$3,250. So that's the best case scenario for the defendants is $3,250 should have been the sale price.
$3,250.
So they doubled that and sold it to the mother for $6,500.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Evelyn Woodall says her daughter-in-law, Annie Cruz, illegally repossessed her truck. Evelyn says the incident is tearing apart their family.
$3,250 is what the car is worth.
Okay.
If you sold it to your mother-in-law for $6,500, you took her for a ride, and she paid $3,100, which would have been almost the maximum that you could have gotten the car if you sold it to somebody else.
But nowadays, you can't get a car, used or not used, at Blue Book value. It's based on the conditions, just like an old car. You get an old car.
Sir, do you speak?
Yes, I do.
Shh. Do you speak?
Yes, I do.
Why did you repossess this car from your mother?
I didn't. My wife did.
Did you give her permission to do it?
It's not my truck.
Whose truck was it?
It's hers.
And whose name was it?
Hers.
Is that right? It was in your wife's name because she purchased it
Yes.
before you were married?
No. After we were married.
Then why is it her truck?
Because it was her cash. Her hard-worked money paid for that truck.
Didn't you have a discussion with your wife about going to your mother's and repossessing this truck?
First of all, I told her not to sell it to my mother. I didn't want, you know, how family things are.
Smart. Really smart. You're absolutely right. And she was absolutely wrong in selling the truck to your mother, given the fact that her husband said to her, please don't sell the truck to my mother. I don't want to sell a used car to family. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, when she said, I'm going to take it back, and your mother had already paid you practically all that it was worth, what did you say to her?
I didn't say anything. I had nothing to say.
Oh, who are you?
I'm the other daughter-in-law. I'm married to the oldest son.
Are you a nicer daughter-in-law?
Yeah.
Your Honor,
What?
She wrote me a letter and sent me a check of $1,000. And my son had got into my mail and took my check as hostage so that I would take my mattress out of the back of the garage. I never got the letter. The police were called in.
I don't need to figure out that your son has a problem. He really should find his manhood. He'd be a lot better off. Where is the truck now?
In my garage.
You going to fix it up?
Yeah, but when I went to go pick up the truck, when I told her, Evelyn, I want the truck back, you don't have the money to pay for it, she goes, well, you're not taking this truck. I'll shatter every single window in that truck. And she ran outside with the horse hook and shattered the back window.
Can't do that.
No, what it was is she called me up and told me that she called the police and said that she reported the truck stolen.
No, I did not.
And
did you break the window?
yes, I did.
All right, you can't do
to get
that.
my saddle and my equipment
You
out.
can't do that. How many months did you have this car before they took it back?
Well, he drove it from February to, I think it was May, when he got his Dodge Hemi.
Is that right?
You know what, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You mean you don't know whether you drove the truck from February, March, April, and May?
You did.
Yes.
You don't know whether you drove it?
I think I did. I don't know. I don't recall.
Did you take stupid pills today or what? We're not talking about 5 years ago, sir. We're talking about a few months ago. Did you drive the truck that your mother was paying for 3 months?
Yes.
That's an answer. They repossessed the car because you missed, according to you, one payment.
Yes. There's my receipt.
Right? You had no right to break the back window. How much did it cost to fix it?
$200.
Show me.
Sorry, Your Honor, it was $157.75.
$1,900 minus 157.
Your Honor, the actual paint job that she did to the truck was also in very poor condition.
I don't care.
I have pictures to show
I don't care.
the damages that she did.
I don't care. As I said to you, you know, if I could say that you were guilty of overreaching and selling your mother-in-law a truck for twice as much as it's worth, I would find that. But she made the deal. She's a grown woman. She paid you $3,100 for the truck. I am attributing to her $200 a month for the 6 months that she actually had the truck, because that's what it would be even if you had a rental, which leaves $1,900. And from that, I'm deducting $157 because you can't go and break the car window just because you were in a snit. That leaves $1,743. That's what you're going to get.
Okay.
You get nothing.
Okay, can
Goodbye.
Parties are in the calendar. Bear with me. In the matter of Greco-Reese versus Haspatka.
Who's Haspatka?
Me.
Good. Go.
Heinlein, Hamilton, and Archulewski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
You see, when you're in charge, you could take certain license. So let me show you what I'm going to do. That's
Okay.
Mr. A, B, C, and D.
I wish I could have done that.
Where is your rental property?
Omaha, Nebraska.
And you rent this house to college students.
Well, I just rent it. It just happens to be college students that always.
You've rented to college students
Well,
before,
yeah.
so you rent to college students.
Yeah.
You have any dislike for this property? You hate
Well,
this property?
this is the first time I've ever had any trouble.
Did you always rent to girls in the past?
No.
You rented to boys? Mm-hmm. Never had any trouble?
No.
Miraculous. How big is this house that you rented, Mr. A?
It's a split entry, 4-bedroom. I don't know the square footage.
And what was the rent on the house?
I believe it was $950, split 4 ways.
And when did you start your lease?
August 1st, 2003.
Name of the university you attended?
University of Nebraska at Omaha.
What year are you in?
4th year, senior.
Senior as well.
Senior.
Raise your hand if you're a good golfer.
Is that anybody in here?
No, just you. All right, Miss Reese, this is the situation. According to your complaint, these 4 young slobs destroyed your house, and in addition to leaving the place a mess, they decided to play golf off the roof of your house at some point and cause substantial damage to your roof.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want them to pay for the repairs.
Yes.
The boys say they didn't have a chance to clean up because you changed the locks on the house, which must have been the month of July, right?
Correct.
End of July. Yeah.
End of July.
End of mid-July, right?
Yeah.
Well, end of mid-July.
End to mid-July.
I don't remember the
sorry.
exact date. Sometime after the 20th of July.
So the end of July, she changed the locks.
Yes.
Why do you think she changed the locks, gentlemen?
I don't know. She claims that we abandoned the house, but we did not. We still had property in there.
Did you pay July's rent?
No.
Well, just a minute. Mr. D says yes. You say no. Mr. D, did you pay July's rent?
The security deposit, she took that as last month's rent, is what she told us. She said we didn't have to pay last month's rent, she would keep the security deposit.
Why would anybody in their right mind say that until they inspected the house?
Good question.
No,
Who did
no
she
idea.
say that to?
On the phone. On July 19th, the day rent was due.
July 19th. Then what did you say?
She called me. I was in bed. She woke me up, and she said she was talking about rent due today, and I said, yeah, I know. I'm going to bring it down later. And she said, but if you guys, don't pay it, I'll just keep the security deposit as last month's rent.
Is that what you told him?
No, ma'am. There was so much damage in the house that I could have used another 2 months' rent to fix what I fixed in that house.
Listen, Mr. A, maybe it's just that you were groggy.
No.
Because what you just told me was that you said to your landlord, I'm going to bring the rent down later on today, and she said, nah, forget it.
She didn't say, nah, forget it. But she left me with the understanding that
well, that's different.
If we did not pay last month's rent, I don't remember exact words, I'm sorry, this was a long time ago. I was under the understanding when I hung up the phone that if we decided that we didn't want to pay last month's rent, she would keep the security deposit.
Well, maybe you said to her, maybe, since you don't remember the exact words, and maybe the impression was left with you because you said to her, I'm not giving you the last month's rent, keep the security deposit. Because then, that was on the 19th, sir?
Yes.
When did she change the locks on the house?
Like I said, sometime after the 20th. It was
Well,
about,
that would have been,
about
listen to me,
okay.
listen to me, that would have been the very next day. So that makes sense to me. What makes sense to me is she called you and said, where's the rent? And you said, you're not getting the rent. You keep the security deposit. And then she says, oh, yeah? I'm changing the locks on the house. That makes sense. Not, don't come down and pay me the rent. I'll keep the security deposit for the last month. And then she goes in and changes the locks. That doesn't make sense. Okay, now, what I would like to see from you is photographs of the house if you have it.
Got those here.
And after I look at the photographs of the house, I would like to hear from your witness, if any. I assume that this is your witness, who's going to tell me something about these golf balls being hit off the roof, which A, B, and C deny. And D. Forgot about you. Sorry. Well, something's going on up there. Do you have major hailstorms?
No.
Nebraska?
Not that year.
Yes,
Huh?
yes, we did.
Major hailstorms?
Not that time.
You gotta be kidding me.
It was probably the worst year for hail we've had in quite a while, actually.
Really? And you think that the hailstorms did this damage to the roof?
I don't know what the damage looks like, but
Well, I'm going to show it to you. You can bring this over and share it with A through D.
Pass them down, boys.
Your Honor.
I assume since you didn't see the damage and you don't know anything about the
I
damage.
do know one thing.
Yes.
I found out today that they had a fifth person living in my house because the man that came to help
Mr.
the last D,
Mr.
to
D.
help D
Perfect.
move out, was the one that told my new renters what they did, and they started it July 4th.
Just a second. You're the new renter?
That's correct.
Tell me your name.
Robert Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, when did you meet these gentlemen, if at all?
I believe it was either the 25th or shortly after the 25th of July.
And where did you meet them?
At the home.
What were they doing there?
They were removing their belongings.
Did you have a conversation with any of these gentlemen?
Yes, I had a conversation with a close friend of the defendants. He said to me...
Just a second. What was his name?
You know, I don't recall at this time. I'm kind of flustered with names. I don't recall names very well. I'm more of a face person.
I can't take your testimony. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
This is a court. Court, we take evidence, Miss Reese. If this young man had had a conversation with one of these defendants, then certainly he could have testified if any of them made an admission to him. But you want me to take his testimony about somebody whose name he doesn't know, who's not present today, and that's hearsay, okay, to support your case. So I can't do that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I've had 5 children who all went to college and who all, at one time or another, lived in rental property. And I remember I used to check to see if my inoculations were in order before I went to visit them.
And later today,
he had become more and more erratic as we had progressed in our relationship, and we'd been in counseling, and he had been on some drugs to help him deal with it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail Greco-Rees says her former tenants, Joel Hospodka, Ronald Heinlein II, Adam Hamilton, and J.J. Archieweski for damage to her rental property. Gail says the house looked like it had never been cleaned.
Okay. Do you have any photographs of the interior of the house, Miss Rees?
Your Honor, I lost, well, I didn't lose them. My sister-in-law did, but I have the letter I sent them with all the things that were wrong with the house. It was the abandonment letter that my attorney told me to write to them.
Whose job was it to clean the bathroom?
Kind of a joint effort. Yeah.
Well, nobody, I see nobody raised their hand.
Who was it?
Okay. Who cleaned the bathrooms?
Usually probably me.
That would be... Because it says here, the bathrooms, and in big letters it says, the bathrooms were disgusting. It appears as if it has never been cleaned. Well, based upon the lack of showing of hands, I would say that that's probably true. It's too late. Too late. Holes in the walls in the master bedroom, broken window, broken door frame. Who had the dog? Raise your hand. Dog! Mr. D, Mr. A, what kind of dog did you have?
We had 3 Chihuahuas.
Whose job was it to pick up the poop in the house from the dogs?
Whoever's dog it was.
Everybody pretty much.
And who did it?
We all did.
We all did.
Oh, there was some you missed.
Small dog.
Small dog. It's disgusting. You know, but you know.
Your Honor,
I've had 5 children who all went to college and who all, at one time or another, lived in rental property. And I remember I used to check to see if my inoculations were in order before I went to visit them. And if they would ever ask me, would you like to go visit my friend's house, I would say, no, thank you. They can join us for breakfast at McDonald's. Because I don't go to anybody else's mess. Bad enough I have to go and look at your mess.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that you've been very fortunate if you haven't had a
I
mess.
have been. This is the first time I've had it this bad.
I'm not even addressing the golf balls over here because you don't have any proof of that. You don't have any confessions and you don't have any witnesses who saw them hitting golf balls off the roof. And I'm not going to get any admissions from these guys because nobody even wants to admit who did the bathroom. Aside from the roof, let me see estimates of the damage to the house.
I didn't have them because I just wrote everything down when I sent them in that abandonment letter.
Yeah, well, that's not
And
good
at
enough.
the time of the lease, when they signed the lease, they asked if they could have 1 dog.
I don't care whether they have 1 dog, they can have 1 dog, they have 20 dogs. They got to clean up the dog's poop and not leave it in the closet. Listen, they did not pay the last month's rent. And they were there after the 18th of July. Therefore, they owe you the entire month's rent. That's $950. And based upon what I see in your abandonment letter and what they concede about the condition of the house, that they had 2 dogs, I mean, that's not something that you guess at. You guessed that they had 2 dogs. You found remnants of the dogs there. I can guarantee you that it cost $900 to fix up the mess that you left in the house. So you owe her $950 for rent, and you owe her $950 for cleanup. Well, you've already paid her $950 because that is your security deposit. Right. So, gentlemen, you owe the plaintiff $950. Divvy it up. That's it. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
One of their friends told one of my new renters why the roof was damaged.
Everything on the roof is baloney, if you ask me. We never went on the roof. I don't know where she got that from.
I changed the locks and told them they had to call me when they were ready to get their stuff, that they were not going into the house.
There was stuff that we damaged. She didn't have a chance for us to fix it. I mean, she just changed the locks.
They're seniors in college. I hate to see what they did in high school.
We're 4 college guys. Obviously, there's going to be damages done to the house.
I feel sorry for the ladies at Miriam.
In my opinion, she's a pathological liar, and now I understand why she's single.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gillitzer versus Morris. step forward, please.
25-year-old administrative assistant Frank Gillitzer is suing his ex-fiancée, ballroom dance instructor Mally Morris, for the return of the engagement ring. Mally claims Frank told her she could keep it.
Mr. Gillitzer, how long were you and Miss Morris engaged?
Exactly 1 year to the date.
And when did you become engaged?
October 18th, 2002.
And when did the engagement terminate?
October 18th, 2003.
And you are seeking in this lawsuit the return of the engagement ring?
Correct.
When did you ask for the ring back?
I believe the correct date on that is the end of January. Once we terminated the relationship October 18th, and then at the end of January, that's when I asked for the ring back, because we started talking again and trying to reestablish the relationship at the end of November. And I moved back to Milwaukee on January 4th of 2004, and at the end of the month, I found out that it just is not going to work. At that point, I started asking for the ring back.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Frank Gillitzer says his ex-fiancée, Mally Morris, owes for the return of the engagement ring.
Okay. What did Miss Morris say to you the first time you asked for the ring back?
The first time, she said no, she's not giving it back. And
Did she give you a reason?
Honestly, at that time, no. I have emails stating that she's just not returning anything of the ring or...
Well, let me see if you have an email with regard to the ring.
Here are 3 emails stating that she's not giving the ring back.
Why wouldn't you want to give him the ring back?
Well, Your Honor, I had already returned the ring, and then...
When did you return the ring?
I returned the ring on the day, October 18th, that I removed my items from his home. Following that, we did start talking again. We became friendly. He asked me to please keep the ring. He didn't want the ring. He didn't want the emotional attachment. I said, all right.
So what you're telling me is he told you to keep the ring?
Yes. And I have a statement from him to that effect.
I only have one email on January 31st where you say I'm not sending it back.
Correct. I didn't have the ring. At the time that he emailed me, he had become more and more erratic as we had progressed in our relationship, and we'd been in counseling, and he had been on some drugs to help him deal with it. When I received his first email, I didn't know what to think of it because I thought that he was in possession of the ring at the time.
When was that?
I think he came into the possession of the ring in December. We went to a meeting together at KU. In the car, I had the ring, and I also had a dance videotape.
Where was the ring?
It was in the cup holder of my car.
Why?
I had just taken it off. I have kids, and I take it on and off, and I had left it in the car. But after that night, I could not find either the video or the ring. And
you had gone together to the meeting?
Yes, we had gone together.
In the same car?
Yes.
You remember going to that meeting?
I remember going to the meeting, and I remember the tape. I purchased that tape because we were both dance instructors at the time, and to use it for choreography, I told her that I purchased the tape, I would like to take it and make a copy of it, and I'll give you the copy of the tape.
So you took the tape?
Correct.
With her permission?
Yes.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. He told me that at a later date. When I found that he had the tape, he said, don't worry, I'll give you a copy of it.
Is that the way it came about?
No, it's not. We discussed it earlier, prior to that, back at the end of November.
Well, from November to the time you took the tape in December, did you discuss it with her?
Yes, we have.
That night, did you discuss it with her?
No. Honestly, it was on the dashboard of the car, and since we already talked about it, I figured I'll just take it.
Okay, and you drove there together?
Correct.
And you drove home together?
Correct.
Did you make plans to see each other after that night in December?
Yes.
When?
The next day, I assume.
Did you see each other the next day?
I do not believe that we made plans to see each other. I don't think that I saw him after that event, before he left for Wisconsin. I did speak with him on the phone.
Do you remember when?
I don't. We spoke off and on throughout December and January.
Do you remember when the first time that you raised the issue of the tape?
It was early in January. KU has a activities fair.
Okay, so that was in early January. You asked him about the tape?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said, well, yes, I have the tape, but don't worry, I'll get you a copy.
Fine. When did you ask him about the ring?
I'd never asked him about the ring.
Well, it would seem to me that you'd want to know whether or not the ring that you left in the cup holder was also taken at the same time as the tape, since you were talking in January.
Well, Mr. Gillitzer was very confrontational throughout our relationship, and we had a really hard time at the end.
But you were still talking to each other, according to you.
I was trying to remain friendly.
All right. All right, let me see the bill for the engagement ring, please. Okay. Not a very difficult case. Miss Morris, it's been my experience that if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. I'm a tad older than you are. I have never taken off one of my rings and left it in the cup holder in a car. Never. That doesn't mean that it's impossible that you took off the ring and left it in the cup holder of a car. That just means it's not within my realm of experience, and I'm a pretty normal gal. It also doesn't make sense that you would ask him within days about the tape, but not ask him whether or not, in addition to taking the tape, he happened to take the engagement ring that was in the cup holder of the car. That doesn't make sense to me. And you have an obligation, once the engagement is over, to return the ring to him. You don't have it to return to him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,853. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may before on the calendar in the matter of Overturf Crawford versus Cooper. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
What's your name, sir?
Jerry Overturf?
Is this your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
She can sit down. Mr. Overturf, this is your former wife.
Yes.
You have 2 children.
That's correct.
Together. You have custody of the 2 children, pursuant to the judgment of divorce?
Yes.
How old are your children?
My son is 14 and my daughter is 16.
And how long have you been divorced?
A couple years.
How long have you and your former wife been separated?
3 years.
During that 3-year period, did your son and your daughter always reside with you?
My son has always resided with me. She took my daughter with her.
When did your daughter come to live with you?
Just about 2 years this month.
So far, is that all correct?
Samantha hasn't always resided with us. She came to us when she was 2 months old. She's an adopted daughter.
She's your daughter. Now, you have primary physical custody of the children, and your daughter was visiting with her mother. When did this visit begin?
The first part of June of this year.
Was she supposed to spend the summer?
She was going to go down there and be with her until about the 6th of July.
And your arrangement was that Mrs. Cooper, is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
That Mrs. Cooper would pay for her transportation back and forth for the visit.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Correct.
That was your arrangement. But something happened during the course of that visit, and Mrs. Cooper had your daughter, whose name is Samantha, arrested and taken into custody for theft.
Correct.
And you had to go to where she was to have her released to your custody. You want your former wife to pay your expenses in going down to pick up your daughter. And you also have some nonsense claim involving your girlfriend, because your girlfriend was so upset about the whole situation, it exacerbated a medical condition that she has.
That's incorrect. She already had this condition, and we'd been in to see the doctor. The doctor had said that she was having a major anxiety attack and had put her on some medication. And said
This is your girlfriend?
It's my girlfriend, yes.
Well, what I said pretty much, Mr. Overturf, was that you believe that this whole situation with your daughter exacerbated your girlfriend's medical condition. Isn't that what you're claiming?
Well,
anxiety, stress, whatever it was, and you believe that your former wife should be responsible for that.
it added to it because we were asked to stay.
Tell your girlfriend to get over it. That's not what courts are about. You have a difficult family situation. You have 2 teenage children. And if she can't deal with it, she shouldn't be involved with you. But you don't come into court and sue for that kind of nonsense. That's why I told her to sit down. She has no lawsuit, so she's out of the picture. Now, let's deal with the fact that you had to go to get your daughter out of jail. You want to tell me when and why you had your daughter incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. She seems to be developing some bad habits, you might say. Her sophomore year, which was last school year, she was truant November to December, and the only reason I found that out was because I checked online for her attendance. So she ended up with 0 credits for her sophomore year. So
let's get to June and July, please, why you had her incarcerated.
So she come down with me in...
Where do you live?
Flagstaff, Arizona.
And where do you live?
Meridian, Idaho.
And she was with me. She didn't want to do anything except lay on the couch and talk to her friends on the phone. She used up 340 minutes worth of phone time the first 2 days she was there, so I refused to buy her any more phone time. And towards the end of her visit, she got in my purse and got my ATM card out and started charging phone calls to her friends on my card. And around the 1st of July, I checked my account, and there's all these charges. I'm like, what's going on here? So I confronted her about it, and she smugly says, yeah. I was like, okay. So I called the Flagstaff Police Department and had an officer come out and told him what was going on. And he goes, do you want to arrest her or don't you? And I said, don't think I have any other choice as a responsible parent. And so I had her arrested for misuse of a credit card.
How old was your daughter? Your daughter's 16?
16.
16. You thought you had no other choice but to have your 16-year-old daughter, who is not in your custody, arrested for using the telephone? I'm not mitigating what she did by going to your, if she in fact did it, and I believe she did it, right?
Yes.
And she went to your pocketbook, she took your credit card, she used the phone for hours and hours and hours, ran up a phone bill, didn't have your permission to do that, right?
Correct.
I still don't understand why you had her arrested.
Because it's against the law, ma'am. Tough love.
Well, Miss Cooper, sometimes tough love is appropriate when you are a consistent, constant parent, and sometimes, you know, despite your best efforts as being a hands-on, I'm there every minute of the day parent, your child strays. But if your daughter was visiting you for a month, it would seem to me that you were not terribly prudent by calling the police and responding to her use of the phone in that way. She did what teenagers do. Are these your only two children?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Bird has children, teenagers, right, Bird?
Yep.
And I've had a whole bunch of teenage children. And I'm going to tell you that they can use that phone and they can think of more schemes and scams not to get caught. I had one that used to change phone plans, you know? And she figured by the time all this works out, right, I'm going to be away in college. And she was right. I didn't call the police and have her arrested. When she's 16, does she go to an adult prison or does she go to a juvenile facility?
A juvenile facility, ma'am.
And how old are the kids who were in the juvenile facility? Up to what age?
When they turn 18, they go to the adult facility.
So, women up to the age of 18.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've committed what kind of crimes?
Any kind of crime.
Any kind of crime. Robbery, drugs. Had your daughter ever been arrested before?
No, ma'am. She's lucked out on that. She's driven without driver's license. She's smoked pot. She's done all sorts of things. And she's lucked out.
Driven without a driver's license? Smoke pot? Did you ever have any of your kids arrested?
No.
Me neither. You talk to them, you're aggravated, you don't sleep at night, you stay up when they're out. There are a lot of things that you do. You either lose weight, or you gain weight, or you start smoking, or you start drinking, or whatever it is during those teenage years. But I never would have a child arrested for what really amounts to the overuse of a telephone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How many days did you spend in jail, Samantha?
I actually spent about 6 hours, and then I was released to an alternative home.
Have you spoken to your mother since July?
No.
She has some thinking to do.
And later today,
You did not say it was a gift.
No, I did
Right.
tell him that it was a
Right.
gift.
He's absolutely right. Your conduct is outrageous, and standing there and lying is even more outrageous.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Overturf says his ex-wife, Mary Jo Cooper, had their 16-year-old daughter thrown in jail for stealing. Mary Jo says she was practicing a little tough love.
Now, what do you want to say?
Well, Your Honor, I wanted to say that maybe my wife has forgotten a few things that her daughter's done, or maybe she doesn't want to mention it, such as stealing from her other family and friends. She is on a path that is not in her best interest.
And you
my wife
you think that a period of incarceration in a juvenile facility was going to mend her ways, sir?
I certainly do.
Now you may be seated, Mr. Cooper. Now, did you have to bail your daughter out?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You just had to sign her out.
That's correct.
If you hadn't gone to Arizona, how long would she have stayed in jail? Do you know?
No, I do not.
Okay. Samantha, your turn, right up here. Now, why'd you take your mother's card?
I had, like she said, used a lot of minutes the first 2 days I was there.
Why?
Homesick, wanted to talk to my friends, don't know anybody.
Okay.
I had money my dad sent down with me. I offered to buy a card if she would just take me to the store. And I know it wasn't right what I did, even though I didn't have the card. I wanted her to take me to the store, that's all. And I would pay for the minutes on the card.
Did you play hooky from school most of last year?
I did.
Why?
I had some troubles with school last year.
What kind of troubles?
I didn't like the school. It was a change. I went from a small high school to over 1,000 kids in one school. It was a big change.
What did you do when you stayed home?
Slept, just lazy.
And what about your father? Did he try to convince you to get to school?
Yeah, so it was my fault. It wasn't my dad's.
What about this year?
I'm going full-time. I love my new school. I go to an alternative school. I have A's and B's.
Have you spoken to your mother since July?
No.
She has some thinking to do. I hope she has some thinking to do. Now, the day that you got there, were you able to have her released to your custody?
They were very good about it. When we got in, it was late in the evening, and they did something that they said that they normally don't do. They went ahead and woke her up. I got in at 1 o'clock in the morning. We signed an agreement, and I left my phone number, and they've been checking in on us to see how she's doing and making sure there's no problems whatsoever.
How many days did you spend in jail, Samantha?
I didn't spend any days. I actually spent only about 6 hours, and then I was released to an alternative, like, home thing.
Did you like the 6 hours in jail?
No.
Okay. Ms. Cooper, you had an obligation to ensure that your daughter would be safely returned on time to his home. You chose not to do that. I think that you made the wrong judgment. I think that you didn't handle this in a way that was in your child's best interest. That's my judgment. And I come from a position of law enforcement. I think that there are certain times when you have to resort to tough love for a child when their life is at risk. But in this situation, you were angry because your daughter seemed to be embarking on a path that you thought was going to lead her to no good. That usually requires you saying to a child, listen, I want to go into some counseling with you. I've made an appointment with a therapist. I want to sit down. I want to find out what's bothering you. That should not trigger you calling the police and saying my daughter stole money from my wallet. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was a vindictive move is what she was trying to do.
I know that it was wrong that I took her credit card.
I think Samantha is basically a real good person, has a lot of potential.
She's a beautiful person. She can do it if she wants to.
Pushed her away, pushed the whole family away is what she's done.
I don't talk to her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Graham versus Goins. Step forward, please.
Housekeeper Dorothy Graham is suing her daughter, 24-year-old homemaker Tina Goins, for the unpaid balance on a computer. Tina claims the computer was a Christmas gift.
Miss Graham, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that you made a loan to your daughter to enable her to buy a computer.
Yes, ma'am.
The agreement was that she would pay off the computer. It is your claim that she made some payments on the computer and then stopped, and you want her to pay the balance.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that the computer was a gift, that she did make some payments on the computer, but that was really done just to help you out when you were having some financial difficulty.
No, ma'am, that's not true.
How old are you?
24.
Are you divorced?
No, I'm not married.
You have children?
I have 2.
How old are they?
7 and 2.
Who do you live with?
My boyfriend.
Is he the father of any of these children?
He's the father of my 2-year-old.
Does he work?
Yes, he does.
What kind of work does he do?
He does construction.
Does he work all the time?
Every day.
Does he have children?
Just
other
the
than
one
a
we have
2-year-old?
together.
That's the only child he has?
Yes.
How long have you been living on your own?
Since I was 15.
How come?
Because I moved out with my first son's father.
Then you moved again?
Yes.
With your present boyfriend?
No, on my own. Me and just my son.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dorothy Graham says her daughter, Tina Goins, owes for a computer. Dorothy claims Tina started paying for it and then stopped.
Tell me about this computer.
Well, it was Christmas of 2000, and before Christmas, I had asked my mom if she would co-sign for me a computer because I was pregnant and I wanted to stay at home and do medical billing from home. Well, she said, no, I'm not going to co-sign for you. I'll buy you one for Christmas. It'll be a gift from me to you for Christmas. And I said, okay. And she didn't get the computer at Christmas because I lived in a small duplex and I was fixing to move and I didn't have room for it. So we waited until like February of March of 2003 and then we ordered the computer through Dell and she paid for it.
There came a time when you made some payments. When was the first payment that you made?
The first payment that I made was in October of 2003.
October, why did you make that?
Because
first
she
payment?
was hurt on the job and she was off of work and she didn't have the money to pay for it at that time.
Did she call you and ask you to do it?
Yes, she did.
And how much was that payment in October?
$44 a month.
How many payments of $44 did you make?
Probably about 7.
When did you stop making the payments?
In August.
Why?
Because our car broke down the day the computer payment was due, and that's all the money that I had in the bank, and we had to get our other car fixed because my boyfriend needed a way back and forth to work, and I have kids I have to take to school every day.
Okay, now let me hear you.
Well, she approached me to buy her a computer because her credit was bad, and she said if I would get it on my credit, then she would pay it off in March when she got her taxes, and she hasn't done that.
Did you have a discussion with her at that time?
Yes, I did, and at that time, she had just had my grandson, and she told me she was going to pay for it, and then she bought a new car instead when she got the money.
When did you start to make payments on the computer?
The first payment I made was in March.
And how come you made the first payment?
Because she didn't have the money to pay it.
Did you have a discussion with her about it?
I believe she gave me the money back in March, and the last 3 payments I've made, well, the last 4.
When did you ultimately confront your daughter about not making the payments on the computer?
When I was sent a done saying it hadn't been paid. Sure. It should be, this should be it. I believe that's it.
Well, this indicates in August that $128 were due, so that they were substantially behind. Did you know that they were substantially behind?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I assume that you had a discussion with your daughter when you received this.
Yes.
When was that?
It was the next day after I paid it.
And what did you tell her?
I told her if I was going to make the payments on it, then I want the computer. And I took a police officer out there and tried to get it, and she refused to give it to me.
Why did you take a police officer out to your daughter's house?
Because I know how she is. She would have fought with me. She'd have called the police on me, and I didn't want that.
So what happened when you got out there with the police?
He went up to the door and talked to her, and she refused to give it to me, told him that they were having hard times, and she planned on catching up the payments. And he told me I couldn't do anything about it unless I filed.
Ms. Goins, did you tell the police officer that you were having hard financial times?
I told him that...
Just answer my question. Did you tell the police officer that you were having hard financial times?
No, ma'am, I did not.
What did you tell the police officer?
I told him that our car had broke down, and that's all the money that I had was enough to get our car fixed.
That's pretty much saying that you had some financial difficulty, right? What? You didn't say to the police officer, it's my computer, my mother gave it to me as a gift. What you said to the police officer was, I couldn't make the payments on it because my car broke down. The only money that I had was this $44 to have my car fixed. And therefore, I had to choose between having a car or making a payment on the computer. You did not say it was a gift.
No, I did tell him that it was a gift.
Absolutely right. That you're telling me now. You owe your mother the money for this computer. So your conduct is outrageous. And standing there and lying is even more outrageous. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,499. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Four on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Harrington. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Harrington and you had a relationship for quite some time. According to your complaint, you lived together. And while you were living together, you made him a loan in the amount of $6,000. In addition, there was, according to you, a violent episode in the home that you shared together where he assaulted you both physically and sexually, and he was arrested.
Yep.
Mr. Harrington said that the $6,000 was not a loan, but that you had lived with him for a period of time, never paid any expenses when you lived there, and this really was repayment for living expenses. And in addition, he says that while he was in jail for that one day, and you were only there one day, sir?
Just for the night. Released me in the morning.
In jail for one day. He says that the charges that you filed against him were false, and he wants money for emotional distress. How long did you two live together?
A little bit over 2 years.
From when to when?
March until...
March of what year?
2002, until the beginning of May of this year.
And did you live in his home?
Yes.
Did you pay expenses in the house?
Yes, I did.
What kind of expenses did you pay?
At first, he had a loan out for the garage, so I took over the loan for the garage while he paid for the house payment and the other bills, and I took care of the food. I'd buy all the groceries.
Now, tell me about this $6,000.
Well, he had one of the other loans that he had out was for $6,000, and he was paying $100 a month on that loan. And I told him, I says, if you look at this, only half of it goes to the loan, the other half goes to the interest. I says, what we can do is borrow some money out of my savings account, get rid of this so we don't have to pay that interest anymore. In exchange, we just put that $100 back into my savings account instead. And
Where
that's
did you
what
get
we did.
$6,000 from?
Oh, my dad had died and I had gotten some inheritance money.
Okay. So what did he say?
He thought that was a good idea. That way we would be saving money.
Did you use a joint account?
Yeah, both of our checks started going into the same checking account.
All right, so let's hear about this $6,000. She says you didn't give her back the $6,000.
Okay, this lady here, met her at the bar, and...
Listen to me.
Met her at the bar.
Listen to me. I'm not interested in when you met her. I'm not interested when you started to date her. I'm not interested in anything but the $6,000. You want to talk about your relationship, you go to a psychiatrist. This is about $6,000.
Your Honor.
When?
Can I say something?
Who are you?
I'm his daughter.
Oh, he's a grown man.
Okay.
You take medication?
No.
Is there any reason why you
No.
can't tell me this story?
He's nervous.
I haven't done anything yet.
I met...
Well, Your Honor.
Shh. Don't speak. Mr. Harrington, I'm not interested in the beginning of your relationship. I'm interested in the $6,000 that she says you owe her. Could you get to it?
The $6,000 was from when she moved in, and she agreed to pay the partial house payment with the utilities, and she said that she couldn't afford it, so she said she'd pay the loan off with her dad's inheritance that she received from him. That was no loan. I've got 9 months of bank statements here that she never put nothing in it.
She never put anything in your joint account.
It was no joint account, and she moved in. It wasn't a joint account until November 9th, 2002.
Okay.
I have proof right here.
After November of 2002, did she start to put money in your joint account?
Yes.
How much?
I guess it was $742 or something every 2 weeks.
And you used that money for expenses?
Yes,
the answer is yes. You used it for expenses. Your expenses, her expenses.
Yes.
You lived together. This was a family, the
Right.
two of you. Now, what was the $6,000 debt that you had? What was it for? Was it from credit cards? Was it from a car? Was it from a loan that you
I
took out?
suppose it was odds and ends for, I've got horses, it might have been $1,000 for them, no, it's just the $6,000 wasn't applied to one
thing.
Right.
All right, so this was clearly your $6,000 loan that she paid off with her $6,000, right?
You're correct.
Okay. Now, when you separated in May, according to you, there was an incident at the house.
Yes.
You want to tell me what happened? Because that goes to Mr. Harrington's counterclaim.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of the night, I woke up with him putting handcuffs on me over the top of me, and I went to pull away from him, and I seen a gun sitting there on the nightstand, so I just stopped fighting just like that. I was scared to death.
You understand that the jurisdiction of this court is $5,000. You
Right.
understand that. So the money that you say was a loan, the $6,000, far exceeds the jurisdiction of the court. So I find that the $6,000 initially that Mr. Harrington had spent was money that he had spent on himself, his horses, odds and ends, etc. They were not debts of a joint couple who were living together. So I'm entering a judgment in your favor in the amount of $5,000. Now I'm going to get, sir, to your counterclaim. I've read the police report. The police report, I don't know whether your daughter has read. Have you?
No, I haven't.
All right. The police report contains your fully Mirandized statement about what transpired the evening that Ms. Brown has described to me, and I haven't asked her to go into detail. It's really not necessary. And there is no question in my mind, sir, that based upon your confession to the police, Ms. Brown had sexual relations with you because she felt intimidated. Now, you may have thought that that was a way to spice up your sex life, sir, but clearly she did not. You acknowledged you used handcuffs. You acknowledged you took a gun out and placed it on the night table. You acknowledged all of that, and you seem to think that that was okay. Now, I don't know why the district attorney chose not to pursue this matter. I haven't a clue. They found the handcuffs where she said that they were in your home. You acknowledged that you took them out without her consent. You did say that when she told you to take them off, you took them off. But that doesn't say that she wasn't, in fact, intimidated and frightened by your actions, because according to you and according to her, you had never done that before. I would be frightened, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you?
No comment.
You wouldn't be frightened if a man that you lived with for the first time took out handcuffs while you were half asleep, put handcuffs on you, proceeded to have sex with you, and you turned over to the night table and there was a gun there? That wouldn't frighten you.
I have no comment.
You have no comment. Good, then say nothing. In any event, your counterclaim, sir, is dismissed, because the crux of your counterclaim is that you suffered emotional distress from being in jail for that one night. If it were up to me, you would have been jailed for a lot longer than one night. Your counterclaim is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You better watch yourself.
Not very smart.
Women, what can I say? They have you arrested, clean your house out, and still want more.
I knew my side of the story was true, and it would come out this way, so I'm very glad it's over and done with.
It just says, love Wanda.
From Wanda with handcuffs on it.
The message behind that was meaning that we were joined together.
Hey, this is just one of them, but I got one every year.
Nothing to do with sex or nothing. It meant that I was committed and we were together.
What they did that night is not something that is rare.
He even asked me about it when I gave it to him, and I straightened him out right away that it just meant that we were committed to each other.
For her to sit there and say that they've never done it before is
We've had them out. We've played around with them before.
Oh, I'm glad it's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Craddock versus Rodriguez, step forward.
Small business owner Joanne Craddock is suing her sister, cocktail waitress Deborah Rodriguez, and her husband Gilbert for their share of a Disneyland vacation. The couple says Joanne gave them the money because they couldn't afford to go on the trip.
Miss Craddock. Yes. Mrs. Rodriguez is your sister, and I assume this is her husband. Is that right?
Correct.
According to your complaint, your sister owes you for the expenses for a trip that the two families took to Disney.
Yes.
Your sister says that there was never an agreement to pay you back the money that she did in fact use. She had some financial problems. You insisted that she accompany the family to Disney, told you would take care of things, and that this whole thing stems from an unfortunate incident surrounding your father's death. When was the trip to Disney?
November of 2003.
And was it an overnight trip or a day trip?
We were there for a week. Debbie and Gilbert took our van, and we took our other van and drove down, and we stayed at a timeshare for a week.
So far, is that true, that you took their car?
Yes.
And the trip had been planned for both families?
Yes.
So why did it become necessary for you to take money from your sister?
On November 9th, I got in a car accident where it was a 3-car accident. One car hit my car right on the driver's side door. Was taken by ambulance to the hospital. Had to be out of work. The car had over $5,000 worth of damage. So I had to call my sister and tell her that I wasn't going to have the money to go. She really wanted us to go on this trip.
Is that what, did she call you?
At all.
Okay. Tell me what she said when she called you and told you she needed your car.
We had offered her our van, and they would just put the gas in it, and we would take our other van, and the timeshare was already paid for. We each had our own timeshare.
Had you paid for it already?
Yes.
How much was that?
$220, I believe. We paid for that almost a year before we went, so that was all
So
paid
the
for.
room was paid for?
Yes.
So what was the conversation about money that you had with your sister?
They told us that they were low on money, they didn't have any more money, and we said that we would put things on our charge for you, but don't let me have to take you to Judge Judy. Honest to God. And here we are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Things went very badly. She was behaving badly. She was making everybody very uncomfortable, and I had to kick her out of the house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joanne Craddock says her sister and brother-in-law owe for a trip to Disneyland. Deborah and Gilbert Rodriguez claim the money was a gift until a family argument changed everything.
So she started to put monies on the credit card for your family.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that she wasn't expecting to be repaid when you could afford to repay her?
I couldn't afford to repay her, and she knew that.
I said, what makes you think, considering you are not families who have lots of spare cash, car hit you, I assume that you're suing the driver of that car?
Yes.
So eventually, you're going to either settle that lawsuit or come into some money. Why would you think that your sister, who doesn't have a lot of money, would not expect to be repaid?
Because I called her before we took the trip, after my car accident. I'm a cocktail waitress. I live on my tips.
Yes.
I knew I would not have enough money to do this trip.
And she said to you, what?
She said, I want you to go on this trip, and I'll help you out.
So my question to you is, I'm going to come back to my question. She helped you out. She gave you a car to go down in. Why would you think that you should not send your sister $50 a month and say, listen, thanks for helping me out, my family, we all had a great time on the trip, and if it wasn't for you, we really couldn't have gone. I'm going to send you $50 a month till it's paid off.
It was never alone, and the only time it became an issue, she filed for this suit the day after my father died. And the reason she did that was because she was making everybody very uncomfortable. She hadn't spoken to my father in 15 years. She wouldn't have been at my father's house if it hadn't been for me. I pushed for that because I thought it was only fair that she see her father before he died. And things went very badly. She was behaving badly, and I had to kick her out of the house. My aunts came from Rochester, New York, an 8-hour trip. She wasn't allowing them to spend any time with their brother. The situation became out of hand, and I had to throw her out of the house. That is when she said, you're going to make my life miserable, I'll make your life miserable for the rest of your life. And the next day, my father died on the 11th. On the 12th, she filed this suit. It had never been an issue until that day.
Everything she just said was a complete lie.
Was there an incident that happened prior to your father's death?
My father's wife did not want me around for 15 years. I only lived a quarter of a mile from my father. Okay, so it was my father that died also. Except my sister and I are adopted, and we have never gotten along. Okay, we were trying once again to have a family. My sister did work very hard so that I could see my father, and I did spend 36 hours up with him because I had not seen him in 15 years, other than twice in the mall. And it wasn't my doing; it was his wife's doing. You know, she's his wife.
Whatever.
So, yeah. So everybody was in the kitchen. I was staying with my father, not doing anything. And my sister said, we need to talk, and I, you know, can we do this later? You know, he's got hours here. And I wanted to be with him as much as I could. And all of a sudden she's telling me how she's going to call the police, and I never went to my father's wake or his burial because she told me I'm the one that was making everybody uncomfortable. Stayed away.
That's unfortunate.
But now that my father's dead, he was the pole for us to get together or do anything. And, you know, probably after today, I'll never see my sister because we aren't close.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. But that's not the issue. The issue is there an expectation, an understanding that that money is going to be repaid at a time when you get back to work and your financial situation is improved? I have to determine whether that was your understanding with her.
Okay, can I say something, Your Honor?
You can say something quickly.
There was no understanding on that matter. Would it have been nice to have paid that? Yeah, I think basically, but after this was filed, this frivolous lawsuit, no, I think we don't owe that. We never agreed to that.
Well, let me ask you, if it was nice before, would
have been nice
for you to pay them back, right?
Perhaps.
Mr. Rodriguez, you know, life is about being a moral person.
I agree, Your Honor.
You're mouthing the words. You're mouthing the words, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're a moral person, and if you are unemployed, and you have 2 children, are these your 2 children?
No, but I would consider my 2 children.
He's their stepfather.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do. I have
Where
one
are
child.
they?
Texas.
How old?
He's 22.
When was the last time you saw him? Almost not
about
an answer.
2 years.
2 years ago?
About 2 years ago.
I mean, don't you wake up some mornings and say, oh, I have a child that I haven't seen in 2 years?
Yeah, I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Rodriguez, listen to me very carefully, sir. Sometimes you're better off not speaking. Do you understand?
True.
Especially when it's not your family.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good.
But it just boils my blood that she's going to stand here and just makes silly accusations.
Mr. Rodriguez, she's not making any silly accusations.
I think so.
She's saying that her sister and her husband, 2 able-bodied people, had to borrow money from her. Stop taking it. Had to borrow money. You don't use the word borrow. Had to take money from her in order to go on a vacation that had been planned for a year because you, sir, didn't have a job.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, you can always get a job. It's not necessarily the job that you like. When I used to sit in the family court, you know what I would do? On my way into work, I would pass all the places where there were signs that said help wanted. Car washes, grocery stores, fast food restaurants, and I would have a list of those places and their addresses. And whenever a father came to court and said, I don't have a job, I can't pay child support, I would say, I have a list here for you. Because when you make a family, you have to work. You don't rely on somebody else to take care of your business. That's why you're supposed to sometimes, Mr. Rodriguez, keep your mouth shut. Got it? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $380, that's all.
Parties are excused. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
What's your name?
Judith Savaggio.
Savaggio, are you the girlfriend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
Good. Miss Savaggio, where do you live?
Bakersfield, California.
And where does Miss Crescent live?
She is my next-door neighbor.
And how long have you lived there?
6 years, just over.
And how long have you lived there?
42 years.
And how long have you and Mr. Lawson been friends?
Off and on for about 5 years.
More recently, how long on?
Several months.
And when you say you're friends, he says he's your boyfriend. Would that be true?
There would have been a time I would have used that term, yes, Your Honor.
Maybe not now.
Correct.
And do you rent your home or do you own it?
I rent.
Do you rent or own?
I own.
Mr. Lawson, this is what this lawsuit is about. It is your claim that the defendant caused damage to your car with a squeegee.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that you did so purposely.
Absolutely.
Because you were involved in some sort of an altercation with her. She says she was merely defending herself. But I want to go back a little bit because I've read your complaint very carefully. Your complaint says that you and Mrs. Savaggio were boyfriend and girlfriend, and that she was having some trouble with Miss Crescent. Is that true?
Yes, Miss Crescent chopped off some limbs of a tree.
Just a second. The answer would be yes, you were having trouble. When did the trouble with Miss Crescent begin?
It was approximately the first week of June of last year.
June of 2003.
Correct.
Now, prior to June of 2003, had you been reasonable neighbors with each other?
To a degree, yes.
Fine. And then something happened. According to what I read from Mr. Lawson, she cut off some limbs of a tangerine tree and left them on your lawn. Something like that.
She would have had to pick them up and throw them over my fence.
Just a second. That's what it was about. Mr. Lawson says that in retaliation for that, he knew that Miss Crescent objected to his parking his car in front of her house. So he decided to irritate her by parking his car in front of her house permanently. That's what you say in your complaint, correct?
Until such time.
That's what you say in your complaint. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened, Mr. Lawson?
I had left it there for a couple of days, Judge, and then I drove to
Why did you leave it there for a couple of days?
Because she had failed to remove the branches that she placed over on Judith's property.
What does that have to do with you?
Well, it was upsetting Judy.
Just a second. If it was just a second, if it was upsetting Judy, don't you think that she's intelligent enough to take care of it herself?
Yes, she's intelligent enough to take care of it herself.
Right. So you instead decided to make things worse between these two neighbors. You sort of sauntered in and said, I'm going to show my muscle because I'm a mature, thoughtful individual who, instead of trying to ameliorate a situation, I'm going to exacerbate a situation. So you, as an irritant, parked your car in front of her house. Now, after you did that, Mr. Lawson, tell me what happened.
Well, Your Honor, I had drove over to an appointment in my other vehicle.
Oh, just a second. So you have two cars?
Absolutely. I have a pickup truck and a sedan.
Good. And I assume that at the time, you also had your own apartment.
That is correct.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Lawson, is that you left, despite the fact that you lived elsewhere, you used the front of her house as a parking lot for your pickup truck.
No, Your Honor. That property is on a corner, and I use a side lot, which is completely out of her visibility all the time on the other street.
So when you said here, I decided to begin parking my car in front of her house, although I know it irritated her, that was a lie.
I park it in front of her house because it's not illegal to park in front of her house. It's a city street. It's owned by the public. I pay taxes.
Okay. So tell me what happened after you parked one of your two vehicles in front of her house all the time, sir.
Okay, well, I had driven, Your Honor, over to an appointment, and after returning over to Judy's house, which I visit all the time.
How much all the time, Mr. Lawson? Every day?
Every day.
3 times a week?
Yes.
Every day. So you returned to her house. And what time was it that you returned to her house after an appointment, Mr. Lawson?
It's approximately midday, 1 o'clock.
Okay. And what did you find when you got there?
When I got there, I found that there was 3 screens from Linda that were leaning up against my pickup truck that was parked at the curb.
What did you do when you saw the 3 screens that were leaning against your truck?
I got out of my car and I went over to the passenger side of the pickup truck that had the screens, noticing that Linda was all the way over there next to her house, the windows that she was squeegeeing, and I grabbed one of the screens and I threw it out in the middle of the street.
You grabbed one or all 3?
I believe I got to the second one before she bolted away from the windows, walking 30, or not walking, but running 35 feet away from this truck, and started chasing me down the street with a squeegee in hand like she wanted to bury it in my back.
Well, Mr. Lawson, why did you, instead of taking the screens and throwing them in the middle of the street, why didn't you just take them and throw them off your car?
Well, I probably could have done that.
I'm just asking you why you didn't, sir.
Because she wouldn't pick up the limbs that she threw over the fence in Judy's house.
How old are you?
I'm 53, Your Honor.
Grow up. Don't you have better things to do than to create havoc? You're going to move on. She's been living in her house for 42 years. She's been living in her house for 6 years. You think she needs you to create more trouble?
No, Your Honor.
Right. All right. First of all, let's get to these limbs. I want you to tell me what happened to these limbs of the tangerine tree, because I want to hear it from you, and it better be the truth. Got it?
Got it.
Good. Let's go.
I trimmed the leaves that were, the branches that were hanging over into my yard.
Okay.
And
just a second. So the tree is in her backyard?
Front yard.
Front yard. And you trimmed the branches?
Correct.
And what did you do with the branches after you trimmed them?
I set them very neatly by the fence.
On her side?
Correct.
Why?
Your Honor. Because I had no room in my garbage can to put them.
Well, that's wrong, my dear. That's wrong. That's not neighborly. That's the wrong thing to do. You have perfect right to trim the branches that are hanging over your side of the property. You trim them and you cart them away. And if you don't have room in your garbage can, you wait until you do, because I assume that they have been growing for a long time. And if 1 week you don't have room, wait for the next week. So that was the wrong thing to do, correct?
Correct.
So who asked you to remove them?
No one, Your Honor.
Did you ask her to remove?
I wrote her a letter.
Did you receive her letter?
Yes, I did receive.
And what did the letter say?
In essence, the letter said that if I didn't remove them, that she was going to sue me. I called the owner, and he removed them.
When did he remove them?
Saturday morning.
So how long were they there in the yard?
2 or 3 days.
Is that right?
About a week.
Okay, but the owner of the premises that you rent ultimately removed
Yes,
them.
his son lives a half a block away. His son came and did it.
Fine. Terrific. So that's over. Now, how much after that incident did we have this parking in front?
The parking in front, the limbs were cut about on Monday. I'm not sure. I didn't see her cut them. I think it was Monday we discovered them. I sent her the notice on...
When?
The next day, as soon as I noticed.
Tuesday.
Well, on the following Thursday, I had visitors coming to my home.
The following Thursday?
2 days later.
Oh, that Thursday?
That Thursday.
Just a couple of days later.
A couple of days later. I had visitors coming up the walk to my house, And she chose to scream and yell at them that she was not going to move those. And I didn't think it was appropriate for her to start screaming at my visitors about these leaves.
Okay. Did you scream at somebody?
I never saw anybody come up any walk that entire week except for Vernon, who chose to park in front of my house and scream at me.
So you had an altercation with him after he started to park in front of your house?
Correct.
Is that right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He kept telling me, nope, I don't want you to go. I'm sorry, I got drunk. I shouldn't have acted this way. I'm sorry I locked the doors. I promise I won't do it again. Okay,
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Vernon Lawson says his ex-girlfriend's neighbor, Linda Crescent, damaged his car by hitting it with a squeegee.
Now tell me about the squeegee.
I was in front of my house washing and drying my windows, and I had a squeegee in my hand when he came screaming around the corner in his car and parked directly behind the pickup. He got out of the car clearly enraged with his fists clenched and came at me. And I turned to see him coming at me. And he grabbed one of the screens, threw it out in the street, and I went out to retrieve the screen knowing that there might be a car coming.
Why did you put the screens on his truck?
Because it was there. It was convenient. It was sitting right there.
Sounds to me like a lot of people behaving badly. A lot of grown-up people who don't have enough to do. It's what happens when you have too much leisure time. How many hours a week do you work?
30 hours a week.
How many hours a week do you work?
40.
I think you ought to work more. You did the wrong thing, Mr. Lawson. You did the wrong thing, Miss Grice. Now you want to show me a picture. I'm dying
I
to
have
see
some
it.
pictures, Your
I'm
Honor.
dying to see it, Mr. Lawson.
Well, this one right here for evidence, Your Honor, shows my truck in respect to the windows where she had to pass the bushes and a tree in her front yard to lean up the screen.
Let
again.
me explain something to you. I understand that she did the wrong thing.
Okay.
I
And
said that. Did I agree with you? Mr. Lawson, I'm an ecumenical abuser.
Yes, ma'am. This is the wonderful dents in my car that she did with her squeegee since she couldn't get me.
This is the tree she cut, fence, put clippings behind. Okay, so she knows she's not supposed to do that. That's not a neighborly thing to do. She wants to clip it and cut it, clips it and cuts it and put it in her trash. Right?
Correct.
Say sorry.
I'm sorry.
Perfect.
I accept that.
You accept her apology?
Yes.
Great. All right, now all you have to do is get rid of him, and then you're all set.
I'm working on that, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest that you get the dents out of your car for $100, sir, because I'm not giving you any more than that. She lost her temper. She shouldn't have done that. You acted badly. You have to pay for that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. Listen, she's going to be your neighbor. He's going to be gone. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Linda gives a new dimension to Love Thy Neighbor.
This man is a very dangerous man.
Well, she acts very inappropriately toward the neighbors.
He had me arrested. He had asked the police to cuff me and take me to jail.
I am a Christian, and the Bible tells me to see that my neighbor lives beside me in peace. The Bible also tells me that it's a fool who despises her neighbor. So, Linda, I love you.
Thank you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gifford versus Swisher. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Donna Gifford is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Fred Swisher, for illegally evicting her from their home. Fred says Donna is vindictive and out of control.
Ms. Gifford, you and the defendant lived together as boyfriend and girlfriend from when to when?
From October of 2003 till June of 2004.
And you moved into his apartment?
His house, yes.
Into his house?
Yes.
Did you pay him any rent?
Yes, I did.
When?
June of 2004.
So from October of 2003 until June of 2004, you paid him no rent?
No.
Now, this lawsuit is about the fact that you claim that sometime in June of 2004, you gave him a check for $500. And within 2 days of that, he locked you out of the house.
Correct.
So you want not only your $500 back, but you want 10 times those damages because you claim he illegally evicted you from the house. Why did you put her out of the house?
This all happened on the 17th, which was Thursday. On the 12th, it was a Saturday. We got into a real bad fight.
Was it a verbal fight or a physical fight?
Verbal fight, but the police were called later that day.
Okay. That was on the 12th?
Yes.
What happened after the 12th?
Well, Sunday we got back together, made an amends. Monday she wrote me a check for $500. $400 of it was supposed to be to help pay the bills. $100 of it was supposed to be to pay for my phone that she threw in the canal on Saturday.
Did you throw his phone in the canal on Saturday?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
What happened to his phone?
I don't know.
Don't smile. What happened to his phone? You don't make up a story like that.
I don't know what happened to his phone. It was in the canal. It fell off his boat.
It went into the canal. How did it get there?
We were on the boat that day.
And?
And I don't know how it got in the canal. It was in the canal.
How did it get into the canal?
I never had possession of my phone that day. She had picked it up and stuck it in a baggie when we got on the boat, because that's what we usually do so they don't get wet. And then the next day, we couldn't find my phone, and I took off. Later, she had called me and said, I seen it in the water by your dock, and she fished it out.
Okay, so she didn't throw it into the canal. You didn't have a fight on the boat, did you?
Oh, yeah.
You did have a fight on the boat.
That's where it all started.
Well, it seems to me, Miss Gifford, that it was a good idea for you to not live anymore as a couple. Wouldn't you say that?
Well, yes, in a sense.
What do you mean in a
say
sense?
that. Well,
yeah, but listen to me. If you're fighting with somebody, to the extent that the police are called, it's a good idea that one of you leave.
Correct.
Well, you didn't expect that to be Mr. Swisher. It's his house.
Correct.
So it had to be you.
Correct.
So why didn't you leave after this altercation on the 12th?
Because he kept telling me, nope, I don't want you to go. I'm sorry, I got drunk. I shouldn't have acted this way. I'm sorry I locked the doors. I promise I won't do it again. Okay, fine. I'd stay or I'd move back in. I mean, this was a constant thing.
You should have been smart enough to say, listen, I'm not going to be a yo-yo. I'm going to find my own place to live, or I'm going to pay rent, or I'm going to pay for my own expenses.
Right.
I don't need you. Do you work?
I was working at the time. I got fired because of this.
So, let's talk about the $500. On the 15th of June, she gave you a check for $500.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, you changed the locks.
No, I didn't change the locks. She agreed to move out, and I moved her out for her.
Fine. Terrific. So you have to give her back her $500.
Even for the cell phone?
Yeah, because I don't think that there's proof that she vindictively threw the cell phone overboard. You said you handed her the cell phone, you put it in a baggie, as you usually did, and she asked her where it was, and she said she saw it in the canal. Mr. Swisher, she gave you $500. You put her out. You lived together for 11 months. She wasn't paying rent, according to you, until the very last moment. So you took her money, and then you said goodbye. And you moved her out, which was a good thing. But you have to give it back at $500. Don't be a baby. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Good?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Allen versus K.V. Harris.
Thank you.
Quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Allen, you had a brother who recently passed away, rather young, I assume. He had diabetes and he went into a diabetic coma. The defendants were friends of his, and according to your complaint, they took a television set at your request when they were cleaning out his apartment. You said that you wanted $800 for the television set. They say that they were good friends, they did an awful lot of things for your brother, and that they can't believe that you are actually suing them for this $800 for this television set. When were you notified that your brother was hospitalized?
I was in the Caribbean at the time when he was hospitalized.
You were on vacation?
Right, with my son. I didn't find out when he was in a coma until July 3rd when he was.
When did he go to the hospital?
The prior Thursday before that, July 3rd, is when I found him in the diabetic coma. 2 or 3 days before she even knew her brother was in a coma.
How many siblings are there?
Well, there was 4, and now there's 3.
Where are your parents?
My mom passed away last year, and I haven't seen my dad really for 23 years. He showed up for my brother's memorial, and that was it.
How old was your brother?
He was 30.
Was he ever married?
No.
Did he have any children?
No, he didn't.
Did he leave a will?
No, he didn't.
Tell me, Miss Allen, how it came about that the defendants got possession of this television set.
Gaetano had stated to me that
Who's Gaetano?
Right here, Your Honor.
Gaetano said that he wanted...
He had talked to my brother Billy on the 25th of June. That was a Friday, the day that I left for the Caribbean. Gaetano had stated that my brother wanted me to have the TV if anything were to happen to him.
Is that what you told her?
Yes, it was.
He had also some really high powered gas RC cars, and he said that Gaetano was to have those.
I don't know what an RC car is.
Remote control gas-powered cars.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just telling you.
Thank you. Okay, and according to you, her brother had said that he wanted his sister, this sister, to have the TV. Now, that's not necessarily binding, but it's something that he said to you.
Right. That is correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so when we sat and we were clearing out Billy's apartment, we had a 32-inch TV that Billy had given to me. I told her that Billy wanted her to have the big screen. Her reaction was, I don't want the big screen. It doesn't fit in my apartment. So I said, why don't you take the 32-inch and we'll take the big screen. She agreed. No money was ever talked about, and no money was ever included.
Okay. Did you take a 32-inch television from your brother's house?
I took it from my son.
But it was your television?
Correct. Billy had owed me money because we were the ones who took him to the hospital and paid for his insulin. We were the ones that always got him to the hospital. Matter of fact, the plaintiff was the one who called us, said, my brother's not feeling well. Can you go over there and check on him and get him to the hospital?
Okay, well, fine.
I have a tape saying that they were going to pay for the TV and that they thought it was too much money, so they decided that they weren't going to pay for it.
Okay, I'd like to hear that tape.
We just got your message. We actually talked about it and decided that we're not going to pay you for the TV because $800 is too much. We told you that we would pay you $5 or $6, I think it was, at the beginning, and you said no, that you weren't able. Well, you know, we've been friends with Billy forever. We took care of him when he was sick. We did everything for him. You guys weren't there for him. We were there for him. And by the way, we'd rather give Diane and Roger the money for the TV than you because you're not dealing with any of this fairly. So if you have any questions, just give us a call back. Bye.
Well, that tape clearly indicates that you had an intention to pay for the television.
This is how the conversation took place. She calls us after she gave us the TV. She says, well, you know what, we found somebody that will buy the TV for $1,200. But since you were friends, we'll give it to you for $800. So this shocked us. We're like, wait a minute, I thought it was an even exchange. You know, I thought we were done. So we tried to negotiate with her and say, you know what, $800's just too much. Plus the TV was only originally worth around $1,300. No, we're not paying $800. So we tried to negotiate and lower the price. How far did the plaintiff go down? $750. Billy's family abandoned him. We were his family. We took him to the hospital. I called his family and told them that Billy's not doing well. He needs somebody to check on him every day. He's not going to make it a month if somebody does not. Okay? So anyways, she goes off to the Caribbean on the cruise. I go to check on him while she's out dancing in the Caribbean to see how he's doing. Okay? He's in a diabetic coma, panting, eyes glazed over.
Just a second.
He's dancing.
How sick was your brother when you left?
He was getting better. I talked to the hospital when he was released. They said he was fine. They sent him home with my other brother. My other brother took him home, and he was doing better. I talked to him that Friday.
Who's this?
This is my sister.
How far did she live from your brother?
Approximately 140 miles.
Who lives closest?
I live right downstairs below him.
When was he released from the hospital?
He was released the prior week, probably around June 20th.
Can I add how he...
No.
Okay.
Now, Miss Allen, what provisions did you make for somebody to check in on your brother every day while you were on vacation?
My brother Roger was supposed to check on him, and he actually said he went up there on July...
Where does your brother Roger live?
He lives in the same apartment building as well.
Okay. So your brother Roger was supposed to check on him every day?
Right.
But clearly did not.
He said he went up there, and he thought he heard my brother, like, shuffle, like, make a moaning sound, like, go away type thing on probably, it was June 30th. He went up there, and my brother was just, like, making a noise just to, like, go away. He doesn't want anybody visiting him. So he didn't go any further from that.
Wait a minute. Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Her brother did go up there only because he called Gaetano to see what Gaetano was up to for the night, and we asked about Billy. We said, have you checked on your brother today? And he said, I haven't been over there in 2 or 3 days. You know, and we both work full time. And I said, well, get over there and check on him. You live right downstairs from him. So Roger hung up the phone with us, went up to Billy's, tapped on the window, heard him breathing, which he was actually already in the coma, calls us back, says, oh, I heard him breathing, he's fine. So we just assumed, well, we'll go check on him in the morning before work. He goes over there on his way to work the next day, finds Billy laying in his bed in a diabetic coma. Of course, he's breathing really deep, and you can hear that, but that's what he did. Nobody had checked on him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your useless brother who went down and checked and said, "He sounds like he's breathing, he must be okay," is just that useless.
And later today,
she just gets really drunk and starts freaking out, screaming.
Just tell me what happened to the door.
She just fell through the door. She just fell through it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janice Allen says former friends Allison Cavey and Gaetano Harris owe for the return of her late brother's TV. The couple says they were like family to Janice's brother.
Now, it seems to me, Miss Allen, that the defendants were not related to your brother by blood, but took better care of him than his own family.
I was with my brother almost every day when I was there.
Did you take him to his doctor's appointments?
He didn't have any doctor's appointments. We took him to some.
She actually called us one time, Your Honor, when Billy wasn't feeling well and said, "Can you check on Billy? I think he needs to go to the hospital."
No, I didn't ask you to check on him.
You did.
Just a second.
I simply...
So listen to me. Shh. Listen to me. Did you call them and ask them to empty out his apartment?
No, I didn't. They asked for help.
Did you call and ask for help?
I asked for help for the television. That was it. And they didn't help with anything else.
Listen to me, Miss Allen. It sounds to me as if you're making a lot of excuses for people who were very kind to your brother while he was alive. Your useless brother who went down and checked and said, "He sounds like he's breathing, he must be okay," is just that useless. You, within a week of your brother being released from the hospital, took your son on vacation to the Caribbean.
I called them, Your Honor, because...
Just a minute, you called them for what?
Because I could not get my brother down the stairs to take him to the hospital.
So you called to help?
I called for help. Exactly.
Good.
I'm a single
Good.
mom.
So what are you doing here talking about a television that you have no legal... Hey, you have no legal right to sue for this television. And I would strongly suggest to you that since your brother relied on strangers to take care of him and fill in when his blood family could not, you think twice about bothering courts with this kind of lawsuit. Your lawsuit's dismissed, that's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. This is my best friend.
I was there every day.
I'm going to remember the last birthday I spent with him.
I went and talked to him and everything, every single day.
How he smiled and he had a good time and we sang karaoke. That's what I'm going to remember.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rogers versus Munyon. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student Brittany Rogers is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old student Rachel Munyon, for unpaid rent, household costs, and damages to the apartment. Brittany says during a drunken episode, Rachel fell through their screen door.
Miss Rogers, you and the defendant were roommates. You claim she owes you for first month's rent on the apartment, which she never paid. She owes you her half of some household items that you purchased when you moved into the apartment, and that she caused some damage to the apartment in a temper tantrum, and you want her to pay for that too because you had that deducted from security.
That's correct.
Miss Munyon says she was totally paid up in her rent. She doesn't owe you a dime. You used a stolen credit card to pay for the household items, and that she never caused any damage to the apartment.
Yes.
Okay. When did you move in together?
We moved in halfway through June of 2003, and I paid the first months of the rent. It was a partial month of $777.
Okay, first month's rent, $777. So?
I paid $277 of that, and she paid $500 of that.
How did you pay the $277?
We wanted to get an apartment together, and her parents wouldn't sign, so my dad signed the lease so we could move in. And my dad told her that if he signed the lease, that she would pay the $500 and that I would pay the rest of the $277.
Don't speak.
That I would pay the rest of the $277.
So your father, I'm speaking. So your father, in effect, took a fee for co-signing.
Yeah, they made an agreement.
Oh, step up, sir. You're the father. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take a fee for co-signing for this apartment?
I didn't take a fee to co-sign for the apartment. What I did was we had a verbal agreement that if I co-signed for the apartment, Brittany would be responsible for the deposit on the apartment.
For the deposit? Shut! Sorry. If you co-signed, that she'd be responsible for the security deposit. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much was the security deposit?
$750.
Who paid that?
I did.
Good. Well, that was your agreement, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Well, your daughter got the story a little bit confused. Thank you very much. You may be seated now.
Okay.
Listen to me. Your father's agreement had nothing to do with paying $500 and you paying $277. Your father said that he would co-sign for the apartment. The condition of his co-signing for the apartment would be that the plaintiff put down the security deposit. period. So you were confused.
Okay.
Let's go to next. Household goods. Did you use a stolen credit card to purchase the household
No,
goods?
I have my bank statements right here showing the places.
Well, tell
showing
me what you know about the stolen credit card, my dear, because she didn't make this up out of nowhere, I don't think.
There was a stolen credit card, and I did purchase items on a stolen credit card, which I was criminally prosecuted for, and I served my 6 months probation and did my community service for that.
Who'd you steal the credit card from?
A girl that I went to high school with. It was a back and forth thing. She stole money from me. I stole that from her. It was between me and her.
Wonderful. Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Every Tuesday, he was supposed to pay me $50.
Does that sound familiar, sir?
Yes.
Good. That's all you had to say.
And
Yes sounds right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brittany Rogers says ex-roommate Rachel Munyon owes for rent, unpaid household costs, and damages to their apartment. Brittany says Rachel has a drinking problem.
All right. Let's go to the damage to the home.
Rachel has a big drinking problem. At first, when we moved in together, I was under the impression that she had kind of cleaned up her act. She told me this total story about her boyfriend and all this.
Just give me a break. Would you just tell me what she
So
damaged
basically,
to
she
the
got
house?
really drunk and she fell through the screen door and broke it in our apartment complex.
Well, tell me exactly what happened.
We just had some friends over. We'd all been kind of drinking, and Rachel, I mean, obviously she's kind of a small person. She can't take that much, and she just gets really drunk and starts freaking out, screaming.
Just tell me what happened to the door.
She just fell through the door. She just fell through it. I mean,
did you hurt yourself?
No, I didn't fall through the door.
And you say you didn't fall through the door?
The screen door was only off the track, and there was like a little rip at the top.
Well, how'd that happen?
Just from people going in and out of it. I mean, we're both young. We both had people over there at the time.
All right, what else?
And also, one night when she was really drunk, I actually had traffic school the next morning, and she was...
What'd you have traffic school for?
I was going 46 in a 35 zone. And she was, you know, drunk again, coming in my room, bugging me. I told her to get out. She comes and flings my door open and pushed it against the wall so hard that the door stopper went through the door and put a hole in it.
So did you fix it?
The landlord fixed it and charged me for it.
Let me see. Why didn't you fix it?
I didn't really know how.
How to do it? You get a little thing in a tube, you put it in the wall, you go like this, and you fix it.
Why? The landlord fixed it.
We finished second bedroom door, stained with unknown white substance. What was that?
That was from a shoe rack that she had over the door that left the paint.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Who lost their pool key?
She lost the pool key. There were 2 pool keys. We had a pool key that didn't work.
We only received one.
And she called the landlord for another one, and he sent us another one. And he wanted me to return both of them at the end, but she did something with the first one.
You have a pool key? You don't know where it is?
No.
Okay. As far as the items that you purchased for the house, and you say that she owes you for half, I'm not going to be able to distinguish what you purchased with a stolen credit card.
It was not with a stolen credit card. It's with this right here.
Sure, let me take a look at it.
They're all highlighted for you. We went together, and she agreed with me together that as soon as we got the computer in the house, that she was going to type up an agreement, and, oh, Brittany, I promise I'm going to get a job. No, she just got drunk and went out and...
I had a job the whole time I lived at
She
the
did not
apartment.
have a job at all when she was there.
I had a
She
job the
stayed at
whole
home and
time.
watched TV, and that's why her father put the cable in his name, because I was working 2 jobs and going to school, and I didn't have time to watch cable.
I
And
had
she
a
just
job
wanted to
the
sit
whole
at home
time that we
and watch
lived there.
TV all day and do nothing.
Did you go with her to Safeway stores on June the 9th, where she purchased stuff in the amount of $626?
The thing is that she told me that she was going to use the credit card that her aunt gave us to get the initial things that we needed for the apartment, and then we could pay her aunt back in $50 increments. And then when we got to Safeway, the
That's
credit
not
card
true.
was declined. And the reason it was declined is because the card that Brittany stole was like a Discover or something that Safeway didn't accept. And I told Brittany, you know I don't have the money right now because I just moved down here, I just got a job, so I would prefer if we go to another store where they do take Discover, American Express, or whatever it was. And she said, no, Rachel, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. So my dad would bring me over food, and I would just eat the food that my dad brought.
Oh, no. Listen to me. Listen to what you just said.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You just said that she had a stolen credit card that you knew about.
No, I didn't know about it.
That you knew it was somebody else's credit card, but they didn't take that credit card at one store that you went to, so you were going to go to a different store. You didn't go to a different store. You stayed at this store, and the amount of $626 $26 wasn't a, listen to me, was an amount that was purchased for the two of you, and you agreed to pay her back.
No, I did not agree to pay her back for those groceries. I agreed to pay her aunt back in $50 increments.
Listen to me. You agreed that you would be responsible for half that bill, only you said you were going to give it back to her aunt. Well, she didn't use her aunt's card, she used her card. So explain to me, what's the difference?
I told her that I didn't want to because I didn't have half of that $300.
You just told me. Listen to me, you just told me you didn't have it then, whether it was her money or her aunt's money. And you said you would agree to give her aunt back $50 installment payments.
Correct. But Brittany wanted the $300 up front.
No, I let her pay me increments. I actually arranged it with her father, and her father said that, oh, you know, Brittany, don't worry. You know, I know Rachel, and, you know, if she doesn't take care of stuff, I will. He paid me one $50 money order.
Does that sound familiar, sir?
Yes.
Good. That's all? That's all you had to say.
And
yes, sounds right.
And then the next week, Billy, where's my money? Oh, I don't have the money this week. Okay, that's fine. Call him next week. Billy, where's my money? Oh, I don't have the money this next week. So.
I gotcha. You're right. 773, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. Matter of Collins versus Williams. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir.
How old are you, Mr. Williams?
25.
What do you do for a living?
Electrician.
How long have you been an electrician?
About 4 years.
You freelance or you work for somebody?
Work for somebody.
Same job?
No.
How many different jobs have you had in the last year?
2 or 3.
Have a drug problem?
No.
Ever have a drug problem?
No.
Never.
Never had a drug problem.
Did you ever use drugs?
In the past, when I was a kid, yes.
You have a gambling problem?
No.
Why is it that an able-bodied young man like you, who's 25 years old, who has a profession, has to take money from his mother?
I didn't take money from my mother.
Well, you did.
It was given to me.
You took, notice, I didn't use the word borrow, loan. You, in fact, took money. Bird, would you take these glasses from me? Now, I'm going to take them back from you. I didn't borrow them, wasn't a loan. I took the glasses, he took the glasses. Do you understand? Why would a 25-year-old, able-bodied, non-drug abusing electrician have to take money from his mother by having her pawn her jewelry?
Financial problems.
Well, you explain that to me, sir.
Well, I mean, at the time, I was unemployed.
Oh, well, I asked you about that.
But at the time when she gave me money, I was unemployed.
Why?
Because I didn't have a job. They were laying people off. In my field, that happens. When there ain't work, they lay you off.
And when you're laid off, Mr. Williams, what do you do?
Well, you try to collect unemployment. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Where do you live?
In Dallas.
Now, in Dallas, Texas, do they have car washes?
Yes.
They have people in the car washes that dry the cars when they're all finished?
Yes.
They're always looking for car dryers. Who were you living with at the time you lost your job?
Myself.
So you needed rent money?
Yes.
You have a car?
Yes. Well.
So you needed money for gas?
Yes.
And they repossessed your car?
Yes.
I'll get to you in a minute. And so your mother took her jewelry and you went and you pawned her jewelry, right?
Yes.
And you got your car out of hock.
Yes.
And then you owed somebody either some money or a television set.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Brought it over to my house. He needed a place to stay, or I needed to put the TV somewhere because he was moving out of his apartment. And
don't look at the floor. Look at me. I can tell everything.
Bills were tight on my end, so I pawned it. And
so somebody left you their television to hold on for them.
Yes.
And keep it in your house.
Yes.
And you agreed to do that.
Yes.
And then you took the television set and you pawned it because you needed cash.
Yes.
What'd you need cash for?
Rent.
Why didn't you get a job?
I was looking for work at that time.
In Dallas, Texas? Oh, I can guarantee you that there were restaurants always looking for help, car washes always looking for help.
Electrical companies weren't.
If you got to eat, you got to work. Can't steal somebody else's property. That's what you did. You took somebody's television set and you pawned it. That's stealing their property. So this person was very angry at you. So you went to your mother and you told her that this person was very angry and was going to hurt you unless you got him back his television.
He went to her.
Oh, he went to her and said, I'm going to hurt him unless I get my TV back. How many children do you have?
5.
Youngest or oldest?
Middle. I have given him money in the past for, like, he's got a daughter. He was trying to get custody. I gave him that money. I gave it to him. That TV, I didn't even know he had a big screen. He sold 8 rings of mine. He made a profit on them.
I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
I didn't make a profit. Everything went towards paying bills.
When you went to get the television set out of pawn shop for your friend, how much money did you pay for it, and give me the name of the pawn shop?
Cash America Pawn Shop, I don't know, it was about 500 and some change. Not exact. I don't know
And
exact.
how much did you get for your mother's rings?
The exact amount that needed to be paid for.
Or did you get a couple of $100 more?
Huh?
Or did you get a couple of $100 more?
No, I don't think I got a couple $100 more.
Well, let's see. Do you have the
Yes,
pawn-
I do.
Let me see.
Here's for the TV there. There's where you got the 450 and all my rings for that day, the pawn.
So the loan amount on the TV was $450, is that right? And he got $519.75?
That's what it cost to get it out.
And how much did he get for
To
the
get
rings?
it, he got $845.75.
What'd you do
That
with
was
the rest of the money?
$326 profit.
Bills?
Did you ask your mother if you could use the rest for bills?
No.
So then you stole from this man, and you also stole from your mother.
No.
Yeah, you did.
No.
You can say no all you like. I guarantee you I'm going to have the last word, sir. Guaranteed. If your mother pays off a debt for you because she's afraid for your health and your welfare, and she says, here, take these rings and go and just get it done.
My health was never in danger. I wasn't afraid of my life, neither. Far from that. I don't care what anybody threats.
They just buried one of his friends 2 weeks ago because of his friends, okay?
Those things, listen.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It happens. He's not afraid. He's not afraid.
You never know it that day, okay?
Yeah. Well, tell me what happened on that day.
When he
Collins.
found out what was going to happen, he started, Mama, please, just give me the money. Just give me the money. I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
Where you come up with that?
Mr. Williams, I don't want to hear
But she's
you.
lying.
No,
Just a
I'm
second.
not.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Have a talk with him.
Sure.
Thank you.
He was...
In here.
Let Bert do his thing.
So that we
But I'm not going to let her lie to me, though.
You're not listening to me. I want you to listen. Just finish the case. Speak when you're spoken to. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sure.
You understand me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Williams, you're going to have an opportunity to speak again.
Okay.
When your mother is speaking, don't interrupt her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Next time somebody threatens to break his kneecaps, let him. He can't keep a job because if he's not using drugs, he has an attitude problem.
Bingo.
And later today,
You made a lot of payments.
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you stop for?
I guess we split up and I didn't get around to it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Linda Collins says her son, Andrew Williams, pawned her jewelry so he could pay off his debts. Linda claims Andrew's life was in danger.
When did he tell you that he would return the money that you gave him for the car?
For the car, he told me that he would get the rings out, and they all went in on separate, tickets so he could get it back. And he made a couple payments of $80. That don't cover interest, though. Here's the tickets for that, and they don't cover interest.
So he made a couple of payments?
No, he gave me two $80 payments and a $50 payment. That's interest, and I told him that. I said, Andy, this isn't getting the rings. This is interest.
Okay, but he did give you some money?
Yeah.
There you go. Andy, how come you gave your mother some money?
Goodwill gift.
Here's a letter from the dealership.
I don't need it. I don't need it. He's just a smart aleck. You know what?
Yes, he is.
Next time somebody threatens to break his kneecaps, let him.
Mm-hmm.
Let him.
I'm his mother. He could do this to me.
Yeah, let him. Okay, so that's the car. He made some payments on the things that he pawned. When you started to tell me, when this man came to you and told you that he had pawned this TV, did you call your son? Or did
Yes.
Your son, And what happened when you called your son?
He said he's got to get the TV out. The guy was going to file theft and threaten damage to Andrew, everything. And I thought, I can't bury my son. You know, I can't do that. I'm a mother.
That would have been a blessing.
Okay, so, I mean, I did what any mother, I loaned him the money. He told me he would get my jewelry back, not a problem. And he's an electrician. I don't even make $10 an hour. He's an electrician.
He was an unemployed electrician, so it doesn't make any difference how much...
I can't help he can't keep jobs, and he goes right back to work.
He can't keep a job because if he's not using drugs, he has an attitude problem.
There you go. Bingo.
Unfortunately, you can't take a pill for that.
I know.
How much is it going to cost to get all your rings out of...
A lot of my rings have been sold.
Well, how much is it going to cost to get what's left?
It's going to run right around $5,000, but the value was $13,000. But he didn't care.
Can I see photographs, please?
And here's one of the rings that's sold now. That's the... It was certified. It was that's what that is. Okay. Judge Judy?
Yes.
This is what he has now that's more important.
Listen to me. He won't have it for long.
I know that. You're right.
So, don't, you know...
It's paid every month. I ain't worried about that.
He won't have it for long.
I know that.
So, got it?
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, the truck that you now own, did you buy new or used?
Brand new.
And how much money did you put down on it?
$1,000.
How come you didn't get any of these rings back for your mother?
Because I didn't owe her any money.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. Don't give him any more money.
Oh, I have no intention.
Good.
Thank
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
His real attitude came out. That's my son. I'm embarrassed for him.
When I bought that brand new truck, she kind of got angry with me because it's brand new and she drives a piece of crap.
I had to stalk him to try to get my money, and I couldn't get it out of him.
It'd be a nice break. She kind of gets on my nerves sometimes.
Oh, he'll get a break. When I get him home to Texas, he's getting a break.
She just listened to a bunch of lies from my mother. I don't believe any of it.
I'll take care of that boy when we get to Texas. Okay, we have our own ways of dealing with stuff. I will take care of him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of St. Germain versus Old. Step forward, please.
22-year-old dental assistant Kylie St. Germain is suing her ex-boyfriend, water treatment technician Jonathan Old, for an unpaid loan to have his teeth fixed and for the cost of a New Orleans hotel room.
Miss St. Germain, this gentleman was your boyfriend for a while, and according to your complaint, he owes you the balance of some dental work that you put on a credit card. And in addition, you say he pulled some sort of a scam when you were on vacation. You put some hotel rooms on a credit card, going away with a large group of people, and the next day he collected the cash from all the people that were with you, and instead of paying the hotel room in cash, he left it on your credit card and pocketed the cash.
All right.
The defendant says that he paid off the dental work and that he did not collect any money from the people that you were on vacation with, that the people that you were on vacation with stiffed you for the hotel room. That's his defense. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you live together?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
About 2.5 years.
What kind of dental work did he need?
He needed to have some wisdom teeth pulled. 2 times had to replace a flipper.
What's a flipper?
Just a missing tooth appliance.
A missing tooth appliance?
Yes, ma'am.
You mean like a bridge?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, like a bridge. It's called a flipper?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was all this dental work, sir?
I don't know. She took care of my bills. All I know is I paid her.
Mr. Old, you're going to explain to me how this worked. You lived together, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a job, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were you earning?
Monthly? I say around $2 grand.
And how much money did you give to Miss St. Germain for bills?
About $500 or $600.
Were you saving a lot of money?
No.
Well, if you were giving up $500 to $600 a month, what were you doing with the other $1,500?
Spending it, partying, drinking.
How come he needed money for his dental work?
I had bad credit.
He had bad credit. He needed a co-signer. He didn't have the money to come up with it up front, so I co-signed for him.
And he was paying the bill?
Yeah.
Until when?
Until February.
What was the balance left on the bill in February?
It was $656.35.
And how much was the bill initially?
$2,375.
So he made a lot of payments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
made a lot of payments.
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you stop for?
Just, I guess we split up and I didn't get around to it.
Now let's get to the unauthorized use of the credit card. What is your name?
Chris Gyro.
Were you on the trip with them?
Yes, ma'am.
So how did I know that? Smart lady. Step up. How many people went on the trip?
8.
Where did you stay?
The park on St. Charles.
You were in New Orleans?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody having a gay old time?
Fun time.
Good. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, I think things have a double meaning when you're younger these days. You have to sort of watch what you say. I think so. Anyway, you put the hotel room on your credit card
I
to
reserved
start
the
with.
room.
You reserved the room. And everybody was supposed to kick in the money at the end and pay in cash. Now, did you in fact pay cash for the room?
Yes, ma'am.
Who did you pay the cash to?
John.
John. How much did you give him?
$100.
And what was the cost of the hotel room?
It was $803.66.
What about your $100?
I wasn't told that I was supposed to pay $100. He told me to reserve the credit card on, to reserve the room on the credit card, and he would take care of it at the end when we left.
Well, he was collecting money from everybody. You collected money from him.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say that here in your answer. You said that all the people stiffed her. But it's not just him. It's him and your $100 too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if I believed you, that would mean that $200 at least should have gone to pay this bill, and only $600 should have been on the credit card. But there was $800 on the credit card. Are you following me?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I hate when they're so polite. It's hard to yell at them. Did you see anybody else give him money?
No, ma'am. But I did speak with my friends who were with us. I know them all, and they.
Well, that's sort of hearsay, right?
Right.
Well, you know their names, don't you?
Yes.
And if I were to call them, do you think, Mr. Old, that they would tell me that they gave you money or they didn't give you money?
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to ask you so.
I don't know. I mean, because some of them.
Mr. Old, if
I don't speak to some of them.
No, but that's not my question, sir. I didn't ask whether you spoke to them, whether you dated them, whether you ate with them, whether you socialized with them. That's not of particular interest to me. My question to you is a simple one. This gentleman knows the names of all those people. You just testified a moment ago, and you put in your answer that nobody gave you money. But clearly this young man gave you $100 that you didn't put towards the hotel room.
No.
And you had your stay of $100 that you should have put towards the hotel room, and clearly you didn't do that, right?
Yes.
So my question to you is, if I were to go in my chambers and pick up the telephone and call any of the other people...
They would say they didn't pay me.
They would say they didn't pay you.
Yeah.
Can I have the names and telephone numbers of any one of those people?
Yes, ma'am.
You can do it.
Okay. It's Chris. I don't know his last name. And it's 337-5.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay. Well, according to Chris, he gave $75 to Norma. Didn't give any money to Jonathan. I don't know what kind of an arrangement he had. In any event, certainly I know that $200 should have been turned over to the plaintiff. $200 plus the $656.30 is $856.30. $656 is for his dental work. Anything else you want to tell me?
The hotel was under his name.
Yes?
And he was supposed to be, you know, he was supposed to pay the bill.
He said nobody gave him any money. His money, his money. Got it? Don't use your credit card anymore. Use your credit card, you get stiff. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $856.30. Thank you.
Yeah, this is case number 429 on the calendar in the matter of Cognac versus Hughes Hield. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
You have a child.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
How old is that child?
He's 7.
And who's the child's father? Were you married to his father?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
From June 2nd of 96 to June 2nd of 2000.
And it is my understanding that your son lives with his father.
Currently, yes, Your Honor.
And you have visitation.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And that visitation was ordered supervised by the court?
By the court, yes.
I assume that that was after a trial or after a hearing that the court ordered supervised visitation.
It was based on an ex parte, including my son's court-appointed attorney, in regards to that my son had told a psychologist that he was injured while he was with me, in which he was not.
Well, whatever. I'm not getting into the whys. I'm just indicating that that's what this part of this lawsuit is about, because the court ordered supervised visitation, and the court ordered you to pay the supervisor, the person who was to supervise that visitation. And the incident in question involved Miss Konia, who was the supervisor of a visitation period that you were having with your son. And according to your complaint, Ms. Konia, you charge a fee for supervised visitation. You must be on a court list of supervisors. And on a particular day, when you were supervising the visit, you terminated the visit. It is your claim for cause because of Ms. Heald's inappropriate actions. And she stopped payment on the check that she had given you for the supervised visitation. And you want that money plus your bounce check fee.
That's correct.
The defendant says that it was you who acted inappropriately. She had a basis to stop payment on the check, and she is counterclaiming for your inappropriate behavior and the emotional distress that that caused her. Now, when did you begin to do the supervised visitation with James and his mother?
This was the first visit that I had done myself. My partner here, Alan, had done 2 visits prior.
Tell me what happened.
Prior to any visits occurring, I had done what's required by law called an orientation intake session. I had done that separately with each party. At that time, each party was advised of what the requirements and the rules were of the supervised visitation. So I have the orientation rules and guidelines contract, which was signed by the defendant. I think it was on October 3rd of 2004. And if you want to refer in specific to policies number 14, where it says disparaging remarks and intentional disrespect.
I can read.
Sorry. Sorry.
The policy says that the person who is being supervised, the adult person, shall not, either verbally or non-verbally, make any disparaging remarks against any adult party, which clearly in plain English says that Ms. Heald is not to make any disparaging remarks about the child's father to the child or within earshot of the child. All right, so tell me what happened on the 29th.
So anyway, so I had done the orientation. We had done 2 visits. Both the visits prior to had been done with Alan, and I had done a visit on October 29th. We agreed to meet at Balboa Park. That was the meeting place. The visit ended up moving to Seaport Village. The defendant decided to take the child to a pizza place for dinner. The child's behavior was becoming increasingly more problematic.
How?
And I noticed when we were at Balboa Park, there was like a long channel of water, kind of like a fountain, but still water. And the child repeatedly put his feet into this water. I mean, it was nighttime, and she actually told him to stop, but the child didn't listen.
Okay, so he was misbehaving.
Misbehaving.
He was 7 years old.
Yeah, but she...
Okay, well, let's get to the pizza parlor, because right now you haven't canceled the visit, you haven't stopped the visit, you're at the pizza parlor.
Yes. When we were in the pizza place, he had flattened himself on the floor. He was upset about not wanting... He wanted to have a particular kind of soda, and she didn't want to get it for him. At that point, I don't like to intervene in the visit.
So he threw a tantrum, and he got on the
floor. He
floor.
threw a tantrum. They sat down, and I don't know, she went up to the counter for a second. He took a Beanie Baby and he threw it at her. Once again, examples of the child's behavior being out of control.
What else?
Then they sat down. She began to, this is where things started to go downhill. She began to disparage the father. She began to attribute the child's behavior.
What you're doing is editorializing. I'd like you to give me
I will tell you exactly what she said. Okay, I have a termination memorandum, and she began to say, the behavior that you're learning from, and I'm not going to say their names, you're learning that from them, and I won't have that. You're upset because the stepmother showed up with you today. I said, if you continue, the visit will be terminated. She just continued. She said, I would appreciate it if the stepmother wouldn't show up. It's of grave concern to me because she's not allowed to be here, is what she said.
She said to you, or she said to the child?
She directed that to me. Okay?
I assume she directed that to you, not to the child.
So after repeated attempts for me to change the subject, she didn't do it. So I terminated the visit. I got on the phone and I called the custodial parent, the father, to come pick up the child. And I asked her also to leave the restaurant, and she refused to leave. Okay? I have never had to do this before, but I ended up having to call local law enforcement, which I have the right to do by law.
Okay.
And when this was happening, she made a comment to me. She said that I'm not paying for this visit. I want my money back, is what she said.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're telling me that in my career, which spanned 30,000 cases, that yours was unique? Perhaps that's true. I doubt it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Child visitation monitor Monica Konya says a former client stopped payment on her fee. Julie Hughes Heald claims Monica overstepped her bounds when she terminated her visit with her son.
Will you step up, please, sir? Tell me your name.
My name's Alan Glick.
Mr. Glick, this is your partner?
Yes.
How many supervised visits did you conduct for James and the defendant?
2.
Were they eventful or uneventful?
They were eventful for me in that I noticed I had a document above and beyond the normal form I fill out, what I observed in lack of parenting skills.
And when did you fill out those forms?
These are filled out as I'm sitting there in the visit.
May I see them, please?
Yes. These are notes I take. There's some abbreviations there I use. And this is just so whatever happens, I don't have to rely on my memory. I have the notes to rely on.
Okay, not so terrible. All in all, not so terrible.
Well,
well,
nothing specific, just...
Yeah, nothing specific.
Just
nothing
lack
specific.
of ability to set boundaries and limits.
Okay. Well, lack of ability to set controls and limits is an interesting, rather amorphous statement. You would agree with that, sir? You would agree with the fact that if a biological parent, because of their own problems, and it's clear that Ms. Heald has her own problems, which is the only reason why a court sets supervised visitation for a parent. So you would agree that if you're only seeing your child for 3 hours once a week or 3 hours twice a week, you don't like to set controls, you don't like to set boundaries, you tend to let the child do whatever they want to do, which is not necessarily good parenting, but understandable within the context of a 3-hour visitation. So now I have the gist of what happened, from your perspective. Now I come to you. I want to see the order of visitation and the judge's decision in order formulating that order of visitation.
Okay, Your Honor, it's right here.
And I'd like to see the report from the child's lawyer.
That's the report from the child's lawyer. He's court appointed per my request.
This isn't the order setting supervised visitation.
Actually, there's not supervised visitations anymore. The only reason why it was a supervised visitation is because my 7-year-old son said...
Listen to me. I can read. This says that the doctor recommends that if supervised visitation with the mother is to be lifted, that the visits with the mother be of short durations, 2 or 3 hours a visit. And then it goes on to say that the mother should, in addition, be engaged in supportive psychotherapy. What I want is the order where the judge ordered supervised visits, not your request for lifting it. Do you have that?
That was the order that was given for the last current standing order.
When?
When the most recent court date stating that there is no longer supervised visitations.
You're not following me. I mean,
I don't have the other order.
Is this a passive-aggressive discussion that we're having? In what year was supervised visitation entered?
2004, approximately in October.
So at some point there was an order that said you don't have overnights, you don't have unsupervised visits, you have supervised visits. And what you're telling me is you do not have a copy of any of the reports that were used for the judge.
That order was only based on that my son was seen by a psychologist and he was coerced into saying that he was injured while with me and he wasn't.
Listen to me.
So they lifted the order. That's the only reason why they had it, Your Honor.
Listen to me, madam.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
I'm sorry you don't, but I'm stating the truth.
I don't believe you. If you had the order, I would perhaps believe you.
That's the order
But of
that
what you're
Randy
telling
asked
me
me
is
to
that the
bring.
judge based their order on the statement of a child that was false.
Yes,
I don't
Your
buy
Honor.
that.
Well, it's true.
No, don't buy that. Now, Dr. That's the child's psychiatrist or psychologist?
Correct, Your Honor.
The observation of Dr. this visitation supervisor, the undersigned, and the prior psychologist who worked with the mother and the minor child routinely observed the mother's frustration with controlling and redirecting the minor child's behavior, as well as the mother's penchant for involving the child in court and adult issues. The first therapist appointed by the court to assist the mother in developing a more appropriate relationship with Jimmy and enhancing her parenting skills ultimately gave up in frustration, indicating he could not make any progress with the mother. So this is not an issue of short duration. This is a problem that's been going on for a long time, madam.
Your Honor, I originally had 93% custody of my son.
Well, something that you're doing,
Miss
Hill, something that you're doing, if you originally had 93% custody of your child, and if you don't have a mental illness, and I'm not sure whether you do or you don't. So I don't know whether you do or you don't. But if I were a parent who had 97% custody, and then it was cut down to 37% custody, and then it was cut down to visitation, and then it was cut down to supervised visitation, I would say to myself, wake up. Maybe something I'm doing is not right. Instead of saying everybody else has a problem. My son has a problem because he lies. This visitation supervisor has a problem because he lies. The child psychologist has a problem. My son's lawyer has a problem. I might say to myself, maybe my behavior is inappropriate because I started out being the custodial parent, and all of a sudden I can see my son 3 hours a week with a stranger that I have to pay. So I would say that to me would be a wake-up call.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Child Visitation Monitor Monica Konya says a former client stopped payment on her fee. Julie Hughes-Heald claims Monica overstepped her bounds when she terminated her visit with her son.
Go ahead.
My concern is that the San Diego court system has put my son and I through the judicial process of I present the truth that my former husband and his current wife, who was his secretary originally, in the aspect of manipulating and controlling, and basically when she has two older teenagers, that my son was coming back with behaviors as in acting like a 17-year-old or 18-year-old that weren't well brought up. So my son was also stating comments about his dad.
You're not getting it. Madam, I sat in the family court for a quarter of a century.
I
ran the system there, and I do not remember a case where a mother had custody of a child or children, and that was reduced to supervised visitation unless there was a serious problem. And if you're telling me that in my career, which spanned 30,000 cases, that yours was unique, perhaps that's true. I doubt it. Because I'm hearing what you're saying, and what you're saying is exactly what I heard from parent after parent who said, I'm telling the truth, they're all off base. And all I'm saying to you is I'm giving you real good advice. Unless you are mentally ill, I would start examining myself, my own behavior, in order to ensure that I correct that behavior or modify it so that you can again become a meaningful part of your son's life. And stop resenting his father, who married his secretary, and stop resenting two teenage boys with whom your 7-year-old son probably has a reasonable relationship, but maybe learning things that are a little beyond his years. You better get on with it. Now, you want to tell me why you stopped payment on this check?
Yes. To be
just get to it.
To be quite honest, I have no resentment to my former husband because he was
Would you
domestically
get to
violent.
it? Because I'm past all that.
I'm thankful I'm not married to him.
I'm
just to let you
past
know.
all that.
So the stop payment on the check was based on all I wanted to do was see my son. I love my son dearly, and due to the fact that he told his psychologist, because he was coerced by my former husband and his wife.
Now listen to me. That's not my question to you, and you're still not getting it. You see, you have this fixed thing. You want somebody to hear you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. I'm hearing that you have a problem sticking to a judicial question, which at this point is, why did you stop payment on the check?
Yes, Your Honor. I stopped payment on the check because she violated her own contract.
How? That's what I want to hear.
She violated her own contract because she allowed Jim to bring his current wife there with the baby. She showed up a half hour late to the drop-off and pickup place. In the regards to the exchange, she originally had the exchanges with Alan Glitch 2 times prior from 1 to 4 on Sundays, in which in the supervised agreement was never to be a person that's an agent of hers, which is ethically, I believe, unethical because it's her husband.
I only have one question for you, madam.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you, in fact, say in sum and substance, that kind of behavior is unacceptable to me? You may learn that at home with your father and stepmother, but that behavior is not acceptable here.
No, Your Honor, I
What
never
did you say? What did you say?
Basically, my son never threw a Beanie Baby at me.
I didn't ask you that. I said, what did you say to him?
About the behavior? I said, I have a Gatorade. When we went to the...
What did you say to him?
When he wanted a soda, I stated, you know, Jimmy, I have Gatorade for you. I was handling it appropriately. Monica started freaking out, saying that, you know, his dad said he couldn't have a soda. She started saying she was canceling the visitation, that
So
I
what you're
wasn't
telling-
his parent or
So,
mother, so
just
she
a
was saying
second.
despairing remarks about me.
So what you're saying is you never said anything about
I never said
your-
anything despairing. I'm not a rude person.
Well, that's been a long-term problem, madam.
Well, that's my
according to this.
concern.
That's according to this that you gave me. It's been a long-term problem. What you're saying is that you never said anything to James about his father and or his stepmother. Nothing during the visit. Is that what
No,
you're saying?
I did
don't
not.
believe
I was
you.
just wanting to see my son and spend
I don't
time with
believe
him
you.
due
I
to
don't
the
believe you.
circumstances.
I don't believe you. I don't think that-
Monica stated I wasn't my son's mother. She called the police. I said I had to call my son's court-appointed attorney to find out that I'd only met this lady once based on a list. And
I
she's
don't think
demanding
I
that I
would.
leave and abandon my son in a restaurant,
No,
screaming
she's
out
not
that I'm not his
abandoning
mother.
Madam! You're not abandoning him. You're leaving him with somebody that the court has indicated is an appropriate supervisor. You can't cancel her check.
In which
How
my
much?
witness
You
here
can't
will
cancel
state
her
that
check.
She was
You
screaming
can't-
at me.
You cannot cancel her check. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $130, which is the amount of the check plus the canceled check fee. And you have a counterclaim for $2,500. That counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Calendar in the matter of Blankenship versus DeFrancesco. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Blankenship, according to what I read, you and the defendant met at a bar, and he came home with you the same evening and stayed for a while. And according to your complaint, you had an agreement with him that he was going to pay you rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he stayed with you, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. He didn't pay any rent. And then you got into some sort of an altercation with him and claimed that he assaulted you.
Yes.
Mr. DeFrancesco says there was never an agreement to pay you rent, that he spent 5 months in jail because you made false charges of assault against him. He was ultimately released, and you want a certain amount of money for rent and $1,500 for this alleged assault.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay. On what day did you meet Mr. DeFrancesco?
It was the beginning of May.
In the evening?
Yes.
And you met him for the first time?
Yes, I did.
And he came home with you?
Yeah, we ended up going to my house. We were going to have a drink at my house. 3 days later, he's still at my home.
Okay, 3 days later, did you say? Well, 3 days later, I assume you let him stay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell me about this agreement that you allege about rent.
Well, as I said, 3 days later, he's still at my house. He informed me that he didn't have any place to go. He had just gotten out of jail, which I wish I had known that, or else if I had, I wouldn't have let him come to my home. Told me he had nowhere to go, and we had both decided, let's try a fast, instant relationship, see what happens. Told him he wasn't going to live with me for nothing. He said he was a hard worker. He had no problem paying me $125 a week. The 30 days that he was with me, he worked maybe 2 days. All of his money went on cocaine. So that's what basically he felt that he was going to be doing at my house. And towards the end of it, I said I had enough.
Now, towards the end of it, I had enough is what I want to hear about, the night of this alleged assault. I'd like you to tell me in your own words what happened, Miss Blankenship.
We had been drinking at my house that day.
You do a lot of drinking?
Yeah, we had been out.
And he does a lot of drinking?
Yeah.
Do you also do drugs, or you just drink?
I didn't skip back into drugs until I hooked up with Bobby.
So then the answer is,
shh.
So that the answer is for the 30 days that you were together in your house, you were both drinking and doing drugs?
Yes.
And I assume he was purchasing the drugs?
No, I was. He didn't have any money.
Okay, so you were purchasing the drugs and giving it to him?
Basically, we were doing them together.
No. If you bought them and gave them to him. Is that what you're telling me? Oh. So tell me about the last night that you were together, the night of this alleged assault.
We had been out at one of the local bars drinking. We got it, I believe it was a 12-pack, went back to my house. When that was all done, we went back out drinking. I suggested that we get something to eat. I was going to get Chinese food. He said, fine, went home. I was getting the food ready, putting it on plates and everything. I turned around, Bobby's leaning up against the counter with his pants down to the floor, offering me something other to eat than the Chinese food.
And?
I was quite appalled by this whole thought at the moment. I went into the living room, I sat down, I figured I'd try and calm down for a few minutes. I went into the kitchen, he's now eating the Chinese food.
By this time, he's dressed himself.
Yeah.
And he's eating the Chinese food.
Yes.
And what happened?
I asked him if he wanted some rice with the food, and I threw a box of beef fried rice at him.
So you assaulted him with the rice?
No, I threw the rice at the floor.
No, your hand motion was...
Well, I threw the rice, but it wasn't at him physically, it was at the floor.
Well, that's not what you say in your complaint, by the way. You say that you started to throw the Chinese food at him.
In his direction.
In his direction. Okay. And what happened after you were throwing the Chinese food in his direction?
Well, I ended up asking him if he needed some sweet sauce with it. After that, we ended up getting into an argument. It boiled down to I was sitting at a chair at the kitchen table trying to figure out what we were going to do with this relationship. We got into an argument. He lunged over the kitchen table, grabbed me by the throat, and started to strangle me.
Miss Blankenship, you left something out, madam, that you put in your complaint. And that was that there was a time that Mr. DeFrancesco just said, I want to get out of here. And that was before you started with the food fight.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to go to the door to leave and get his clothes and leave. And you say in your complaint that you prevented him from leaving.
I, for whatever stupid reasons, didn't want him to take his clothes at the time. I felt that he owed me money for being there, and I figured that we'd straighten it out at some other time.
So you blocked the door?
I blocked the door.
And it was after you blocked the door that he lunged at you?
Shortly after that.
Now, you called the police and had him arrested.
When I could get to a phone, I called the police. He ripped the phones out of the wall.
Now, when did you finally get to the police?
After I got his hands off my throat.
Okay. So he took his hands off your throat, you called the police, and I assume you let him leave at that point.
I didn't let him leave. He went running out the door. This is after he pulled the alarm system out of the wall. I tried calling 911 from 2 telephones. He kept pulling the phones out of my hand, pressing the off button.
At that point, I assume, Miss Blankenship, that you were ready to let him leave.
Yeah.
Now, what hospital did you go to?
I didn't.
So if you didn't go to a hospital, I assume you weren't injured.
I was injured, but there wasn't anything that I felt that they could do to me
How
that
were
was
you
going to
injured?
make the marks go away.
How were you injured?
By him strangling me. I had marks on my arm, on my face.
Did you take any
I
photographs
have
of
the
it?
police report and pictures.
I'd like to see.
Plus, I didn't go right to the hospital, or I didn't go to the hospital because the police wanted me to go to the police station. I was down there for about 3-4 hours.
I noticed that in your statement to the police, you didn't tell the police that Mr. DeFrancesco wanted to leave, or that the mess that they observed in the kitchen of the Chinese food all over the place was the result of you throwing it all over the place. How come you didn't tell them that?
Oh, I don't recall whether I did or didn't.
You didn't. Trust me, you didn't.
Well, regardless of that, he has no right to try to strangle me.
You had no right to try to keep him in the house.
Oh, I didn't physically block his entrance from leaving.
That's what you
the
said.
door
That's
was right there.
That's exactly what you said.
I stopped him from getting his clothing, not from walking out the door.
No, that's not what you said, madam. You said, when I returned, I was still so angry that I started to throw food at him. He was going to get his stuff and leave, but I was too angry to let him leave with his clothes. I blocked the door.
I blocked the door from him getting his clothes in the bedroom.
So why didn't you let him get his clothes? You were both too drunk.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your Honor, she assaulted me on other occasions, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. I don't hit women.
Mr. DeFrancesco, how come you spent 5 months in jail?
I was on probation, but I was charged with assault with intent to murder, and intimidating a witness.
And later today,
I was trying to do her a favor. That's it.
You did do her a favor.
Yeah.
Then what are you bothering me for?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Blankenship says ex-boyfriend Robert DeFrancesco owes for strangling her. Robert says Cindy threw Chinese food at him.
Madam, he'd been drinking, according to you, for days. drinking and doing drugs for days. All right, I'm prepared to hear you, Mr. DeFrancesco.
Your Honor, I first met Cindy. She's right. I did
I
get out
heard
of jail.
that how you met her. You met her at a bar. You went home with her and you stayed too long.
No, I went home with her, and that night I left. She at 5 in the morning. Some other gentleman called, and I had to leave. And she brought me to my brother's house. And then the next day I went to see her. We did some gardening work, whatever. And
Could you look at me instead of looking over there?
oh, I'm sorry. Off and on, we stayed together for about 3 weeks. I'd see her for a few days. It would be okay. Then she'd start yelling at me for stupid little things, and it would get all crazy. And I'd say, you know, I'm going to leave. So one time she called the police, and I'd already left. But
He was trying to run my household.
Could you look at me when you're speaking, sir?
yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor. When the cops came, they just came because she just wanted me to leave, and I'd already left. So I told her, I said, you know, I'm on probation and stuff like that. I can't have any problems with the police, so I don't think this is going to work out. So to make a long story short, we'd gone back and forth.
You're still looking over there.
Back and forth, and then another time the police came to get me. You know, the same thing. I just left. I had my bag of clothes. It was raining out. I left.
You shouldn't be drinking with her, sir. I mean, but the problem is you're two drunks living together.
Well, Your Honor, the day in question of the day that I got arrested I was working all day. I was working all day. She was at the bar. She was supposed to be going to get her motorcycle license or whatever, but it got done early. She came home. So then I got upset with her. I'd already told her a few times, you know, if this continues, we're not going to stay together. You know, I can't handle this. You're too abusive.
It was the other way around, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she assaulted me on other occasions, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. I don't hit women. You know, she was hitting me.
Mr. DeFrancesco, how come you spent 5 months in jail? Were you on probation or parole?
I was on probation, but I was charged with assault with intent to murder, and intimidating a witness.
Okay.
That's what I was charged with.
Okay. And those charges were ultimately tossed.
They were dropped because she pled the fifth, because she didn't want to perjure herself.
Well, for whatever reason, they should have been dropped a long time ago. What had you just been released from jail for?
Assault and battery, malicious damage. I got into a big fight at a bar. I did like 2 years.
Mr. DeFrancesco, may I suggest to you, sir, that you are not a good drunk? Do you understand? You're not a good drunk. And if you're going to continue to drink, I wouldn't take up with somebody who is also a bad drunk. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All
That's
right.
what I
How
tried
old
to
are
do.
you, sir?
I'm 42 years old.
You look every day of it, Mr. DeFrancesco. You're getting old before your time, sir.
Well, Your Honor, I did try to leave. That's why, you know, that's why I feel it's bogus.
Mr. Blankenship, you don't have a case. He didn't try to murder you. You were two
If he
drunks
didn't try to murder me,
Listen
Your
to
Honor,
me.
why did they charge him with attempted murder from the marks all over me?
Listen to
why
me.
did I call 911?
I'm telling you why you called 911, because he finally got fed up with you, and he probably did try to choke you. That's why. That's not attempted murder, just like you throwing Chinese food at him is not assault. You want to drink and do drugs with somebody who also drinks and does drugs? That's what happens. What are you bothering me for? Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I tried to get out of the relationship, and it just ended up being violent.
It's obviously started a different way from him dropping his drawers to the floor and so on, you know, making any type of sexual advances that he wanted to happen. So, I mean, it's insane.
Those are personal issues. That's stuff that normal people do, you know. It's just that it just got carried away.
Him and I being together, drinking, you know, not knowing what kind of relationship we were going to get into. So I wish it had never started from the beginning.
Of course, if you drink and drug, it's going to cause problems, you know. But what she stated, you know, that just shows that's one of her traits. You know what I mean? She just talks crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Trathan versus Riffit, step forward, please.
Maintenance technician Joseph Trathan is suing his ex-girlfriend, inventory auditor Joelle Riffit, for the balance on a Dodge Stratus. Joelle claims the vehicle is Joseph's responsibility.
Mr. Trathan, according to your complaint, the defendant, who was your girlfriend, you have a child together, owes you for some money for a car.
Yes.
And Miss Riffit, I don't know. I tried to figure out her answer, but it was all kind of very soft. She says you agreed to assume the losses for the car when you sold it. However, we're going to ferret out the truth. When did you purchase this car along with Miss Riffit? And what year?
I co-signed, I believe, in 01.
When did you buy the car?
June of 2000.
What kind of car did you buy?
A Dodge Stratus.
It was your car?
Yes.
And he co-signed the loan because you couldn't get it without his co-signature, is that right?
We actually were both on the loan equally. It was...
Because you couldn't get it by yourself?
It was a lower interest that way.
Because you couldn't get it by yourself?
Yes.
And you kept the car from June of 2000 until when?
April 2004.
And what did you do with it?
Well, what happened was I left the house. I left him in October, and I tried maintaining the payments.
October of 2003?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was doing it. I had an apartment on my own, and I was trying to raise both my children, and I was having a hard time struggling making the payments because they were $330. And we had discussed it, and I asked him if he can help me out by taking the car because I can't afford it no more, so I can get a less expensive car. And the day before I gave it back to him, I called him and said, hey, Nissan called me, and they said they got a car for me for $4,500, which made my payments to be $170. Are you still willing to take it? Because I still had one more day to tell Nissan I didn't want it if he didn't agree. So he said, yeah, that's fine. We made arrangements. I dropped it off the car, and I put both sets of keys underneath the driver's seat. And after that, after I dropped it off on the 30th, I thought everything was done and fine. We were on good terms. I wasn't expecting any of this.
How much child support does he pay?
He pays me $205 now, but at the time...
Don't tap.
Okay.
$205 a what?
A week.
And how much child support do you get from the father of your other child?
$100 a week.
So you get twice that from him?
Now.
What were you getting before?
He was only giving me $100 a week.
And when did it double? Put your hand down. You're the girlfriend?
I'm the fiance, ma'am.
Fiance. We don't need you. We don't need to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Good.
On September 27th, we went to court, and that's when they distinguished $205 a week.
Now, sir, Ms. Riffett says that you agreed to take... Stop shaking your head. You look like making me seasick. Ms. Riffett says that you agreed to take the car and sell it. I assume sell it. Is that right?
No.
Well, tell me what you agreed to do.
I agreed to try to help her sell the car. I talked to my neighbors, some people at work, try to get rid of the car if I could.
Well, when she told you she wanted to get rid of the car, what did you say to her?
I said I would try... I would say I would try to help you get rid of the car if I could. If I can't, that's your responsibility. It was your car. I'm not going to take the loss.
You told her that? You told her those things?
Yes.
Yeah.
I said it's not my...
And what happened when she dropped the car off with the keys at your house?
Well, I didn't want to take on the responsibility of the extra car payment, or if I couldn't make it, going against my credit. So I gave myself like a month time limit to try to get rid of it because my neighbor was talking to her mom about trying to buy it. And then she got a hold of me. I couldn't sell it to her, so I went to CarMax, see how much they could offer to me for it.
Why did you try to sell it privately, put an ad in the paper?
Because I didn't want to continue making the payments. And also, if she's saying she couldn't afford it, when she moved out of the house, we split the equity in the house. I gave her a $10,000 check for the equity of the house several months later, which she knew she was going to get money for that.
You shouldn't have taken the car, sir. You have to have a contract with her.
I didn't take it. She left it on me.
Not have taken the car. You should have taken it back to her with the keys and said, this is your problem, this is your car, you've had it for 4 years, I'm not doing anything with it. But once you assume the responsibility by trying to sell it and then going ahead and selling it to somebody else, you can't come back against her for the difference. You didn't have a contract with her.
I was trying to do her a favor. That's it.
That's fine. You did her a favor. You did do her a favor.
Yeah.
Then what are you bothering me for?
Because, and then she's saying she couldn't afford it, but she, gave it to me in April? That's 5 months later.
You have to have a contract with her. An agreement, oral, written. And the oral or written agreement says, if you sell the car at a loss, I will pay the difference. You didn't have that contract with her.
No, but I know I couldn't let it sit there and not have anyone make payments on it. She could give me half the money. What happens, sir,
is that after she stops making payments, they're going to repossess the car. If she let that happen. Now, she may not have let that happen because she has a job and she doesn't want her credit destroyed. But once you assume the responsibility by selling the car without a contract, oral or written, with her, you cannot then come to court and say, well, she should have done this. She should have made the payments. She should not have put me in that position. She should not have dropped the car off at my house. She dropped the car off, you took the car, and you sold it. That's your problem.
But I was trying to do the right thing.
Good.
And I didn't want it affecting my credit. It would have been too late if I would have waited for something like that.
I have to tell you, sir, I'm very sympathetic with you. You should not have done it. This is a court. Courts deal with contracts. You did not have a contract with her.
I have contracts on how much I paid
Sorry.
on it.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Rao, you and the defendant are next-door neighbors.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have adjoining backyards.
Yes.
Adjoining yards. And it is your claim that Mr. Cruz threw some junk into your backyard and in doing so damaged some of your property. You want him to pay for that property. Mr. Cruz seems to indicate that while he did place some things in your yard,
Yes, ma'am.
he was merely returning the stuff that you had put in his yard.
Correct, Your Honor.
So it sounds to me like you people need something else to do. When did the trouble start, Miss Rao, with Mr. Cruz?
When I saw that the land was eroding, I put rocks there to hold up the land, and Mr. Cruz came out and abruptly said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, I said, "We got a problem here. The land is going down the hill."
I don't understand. Do you have a photograph to show me
Yes,
what you
I do.
mean? I'd like to see it.
That's the photographs of the damage and the
Well, I don't
land.
want to see the damage. I'll take them all. Let me see if I can find what you're talking about. Okay. I'm looking at this picture. Is this the area where you were placing rocks?
Yes.
Okay. On whose property is this?
Mr. Cruz.
So you were placing rocks on Mr. Cruz's property?
There's some of it is my property. I was placing it real close to the fence.
Well, you can't place rocks on his property, Miss Rao.
I was placing it on my property.
No, you also said you were placing it on his property. You cannot place rocks on his property. You cannot put anything on his property.
Right. I got his permission. When he came out and abruptly said, "What are you doing?" I told him, and he said, "Fine."
Just a second.
Okay.
Before you do it.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Okay. If that was true, that was very nice of him. But before you step on somebody else's property to make any alterations, you call them and you ask for permission. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, I'll start with you, Mr. Cruz. Why don't you tell me what happened?
November 2nd, we got up and I looked out my kitchen window and I actually could see up the slope to her house. And I saw some garbage, branches, tennis shoe. I see PVC pipe. I see a bucket. Those black ones when the plants come in. I told my wife I'll be right back. I went to her house, knocked on her door to see if she was there. I've cleaned it 3 times
Now,
already.
that's on your property?
Yes, ma'am. It's on my property.
Is this a back part of your property?
Yes, it's a back with a big slope, like maybe 70 feet long.
And on the other side of the property is?
Her fence in the pool.
Okay. So, just a second. So you went over to her house on the 2nd?
Correct.
And nobody answered?
Nobody answered the door, so I went home. I went up the slope. I picked up the black bucket, a couple of root plants, and a couple rocks, and I tossed it over the fence. And that dirt right there that you see was covered all with ice plant. There was no exposure of the PVC pipe. I have a picture, ma'am.
Let me see it, please.
I have a couple pictures. Plus, I also found a rock in my pool. And it's not rock, it's actually cement. Take a look through those. And there's also a picture of a ladder that she uses to climb over my fence. Because she's been in my property. I've seen her 3 times. The last time I saw her, she was just sitting there pulling some ice plants, and I said to my wife, let's just ignore her.
Why were you pulling these ice plants?
I got his permission. I asked him if he would please trim his ice plant because it was going under my fence and getting wrapped up in my vines. And he said he wouldn't. I said, do you mind if I do it? He said it was fine. So I hired a guy to trim his ice plant, and I told him at that time I was going to put rocks there to keep the land from going down the hill, and I was going to put plants there, plants with good roots to hold the soil. I was trying to better the property. I would never, ever, I was afraid of him and still afraid of him. I would never put garbage on his place.
Miss Rao, listen to me. Somebody in your house was using part of his property to dump stuff.
No, Your Honor, no.
Well, I mean, otherwise what you're saying to me...
I don't know where the tennis shoe came from. I don't know, I have no idea where a tennis shoe came from. It was a huge man's tennis shoe. I live in my house by myself. I'm trying to clean up the area.
Okay. Now, I would like you to tell me what kind of damage you allege was done as a result of his throwing this debris over, and I want to see your police report, please.
He did not give a police report.
Well, if you don't have a police report, don't give me anything else.
What is this notice that he came out? I don't know why they didn't do a police report.
I don't know
why. He told Ron why he didn't do a police report.
Who are you?
My name's Ron Filipponi, Your Honor. I'm Mrs. Darlene's fiance.
Okay.
And I picked up the police report, and the Sheriff's Department did not do a police report on an incident because there was no threats made, and there was no physical
Well, that's not
damage.
true, because I have a police report here indicating that the alleged violation that Mr. Cruz was complaining of was trespassing, dumping onto property, and repeating violations.
Your Honor, anything I did was try to improve the property. I would never, first of all, I'm afraid of Mr. Cruz.
Ms. Rao, you cannot elect to improve somebody else's property.
It was to take care of my property. It's sliding down the hill.
You cannot elect to improve someone else's property.
I'm trying to prevent my land from going down. I was just going to put rock there to save the land.
I'm going to say it to you one more time. You can't do that. It's not your property.
Part of it is.
Part of it may be. The rest of it is his. You can't go on his property and put rocks on his property. You can't do that.
I put the rocks on the property because I didn't want to step on that pipe. I was trying to protect from stepping on the pipe. And then I could stand on a rock and move the, rather than standing on the soil and sliding down.
You can't do that.
And when I was doing that, I waved, he was in the window in the kitchen, and I waved to him and he waved back.
On my property. She's on my property waving at me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I've tried to explain to this lady who doesn't seem to get it. Maybe you get it. Do you get it?
I get it, Your Honor.
Maybe later, in a quiet moment, you give her a glass of red wine. Maybe you can explain it to her.
And later today,
We need one of those great fly swatters, because there's a sucker here that's looking to meet its ancient relatives. You or me?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Darlene Rao says neighbor Raul Cruz damaged her fence with rocks. Raul says it's Darlene who's dumping rocks on his property.
Now, I want you to show me what the damage was to your, whatever you say was damaged as a result of his throwing this stuff all the way down here.
Can you have the pictures of what's damaged?
No, I see a lot of schmutz, but I don't see much damage.
Well, this is part of the vase statue of the angel that he broke. This is what came off the chair that I passed it down from my mom to me. And there's a big bench there. You can see the damage to the big bench there.
You have a picture of the bench before?
Yes, I have a picture of the bench right here before.
And I see it.
This is before, and this is after I did the work. This is where all his plants were coming up.
No, I just want to see the picture of the bench.
And the bench is here, and the bench is here. There's all these pictures of the bench.
I also have a picture of her property, and she has like maybe 1.5 feet of white rock. If she wants to do something to prevent it from going down, she could build a retaining wall on that white rock she has.
Listen to me. You can't throw the rocks on her property because you got in a snit.
I was just returning it.
I heard you, Mr. Cruz. I mean, I've tried to explain to this lady who doesn't seem to get it. Maybe you get it. Do you get it?
I get it, Your Honor.
Good. I'm glad you get it. Maybe later, you know, in a quiet moment, you give her a glass of red wine. Maybe you can explain it to her that she cannot go on somebody else's property.
That's sound advice.
It's sound advice,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So you have to stay on your own land. In the meantime, I don't see a picture of this bench that you allege he damaged before.
Can I come up there and show it to you, please?
Sure. Show me a picture. Listen to me. I see this
have more.
picture. I see this picture of the bench here,
Right.
damaged.
And
all
here's
I
the
want
bench.
you to show.
See? Here's the bench, right here.
I see the bench. I want you to show me a picture of the bench before you say this
Okay,
happened.
There's little snapshots here.
Well, show me.
Sorry, it's far away, but that's the bench.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Pay attention. I can't see anything from this picture. Could you see anything from this picture? The answer is yes or no.
Yes,
Can you
I can
see what the bench looked like in this picture?
Yes.
Well, I can't. I can't.
I
Step
can
back.
see it.
Mr. Cruz, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Sir,
I need it.
you still have a chance. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. You can't throw property like you did. And she may be irritating and she may cause you all kinds of problems, but you still cannot resort to that kind of self-help. Listen, Miss Rao, bottom line is you can't put your foot on somebody else's property.
I got permission from him, too, and I swear to God, it's the truth. I will, but I
Miss
got
Rao,
permission from him.
Mr. Cruz, you have $1 in your pocket?
Yes, I do.
Take it out. Bird, take the $1. Give it to Miss Rao. That's your judgment for the damage that he did, Miss Rao. You don't seem to get it. I want you to get it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He gave me permission to put the rocks there, and I swear to God, that's the honest to God truth.
I think she's a good person, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we have differences, but let's just get along with neighbors.
He's a con man, and for some reason, I'm a victim.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kangas versus Kangas, step forward, please.
Licensed investigator Paul Kangas is suing his son, 21-year-old movie theater clerk Shane Kangas, for unauthorized credit card charges and for money owed on a computer. Shane says he worked off the debt by working in the family business.
Mr. Kangas, this young man is your son.
Yes, Your Honor.
How old is he?
21.
What do you do?
I work at a movie theater.
What do you do there?
I serve people popcorn, clean up at the night.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Computer technician.
Okay. Mr. Kangas, you say that your son came to live with you, and you also purchased a computer for him, and I understand that the agreement was it was going to be paid for in sort of barter. He was going to put in a certain number of hours working for your business, which is private investigating business.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that would pay off the computer.
Yes.
And you also gave him a credit card.
I did.
And told him to use it, but use it wisely.
It's to help him in the business, so when I send him out to do something, like go to the lab to develop film, that he'd have a way of paying for the film, picking up the film.
And what about personal stuff if he needed something?
Personal stuff, he had to check with me before he spent beyond $20. I have the same arrangement with my daughter, and she honors it strictly with her credit card.
That's what makes horse racing, sir. Children
Yes.
are different.
That's for sure.
Okay. After several months, he decided he didn't like it anymore, so he decided to sit in his room, play his guitar, whatever. You got annoyed. He left. You want him to pay for the computer and for the credit card bills that he racked up while he was still using the credit card. That's what your lawsuit's about.
Somewhat. It's the reason for buying the computer for him was to motivate him. So I made this deal with him. Look, you know, you pick out any computer you want, and the deal is you'll pay for it out of the amount of time you put in. I'm only asking you to work 4 hours a day. We lived across the street from the courts, so it was easy for him.
Well, how long did he work for you after you bought him the computer?
Several months. He was doing quite well. He was really motivated.
Well, how much did he work off of the computer?
About $1,000 of it.
That's a pretty nebulous contract that you have with him, Mr. Kangas.
Well, he didn't last that long because he got so into the computer. I mean, he'd be up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning on the computer, and I'm trying to sleep. I was trying to motivate him. I was trying to control him. I was trying to exert some parental influence on him.
All sounds terrific. Remember, the father knows best?
Yes, I do.
It's not like that anymore.
Well, it's...
You know, families don't sit around in shirts and ties having dinner together anymore. Everything that you did with your son sounds as if you had the right motivation. He was going to work, and he was going to pay off this computer, and he was going to be responsible with the credit card.
That's right.
Right.
But then we got into a dispute over the computer, and then he moved out and started spending the credit card like it was his credit card and it was free money, and he just started sending me these bills for huge amounts of money.
Well, what I would like to see is the bills after he moved out. And then, Bert, you know what we're going to do? We need one of those great fly swatters that we used to have, because there's a sucker here that's looking to meet its ancient relatives.
I think I got just what you need.
You or me?
Oh. Took a nice little nosedive right into your cup. No, they don't. No.
See what happens when I get annoyed?
Yes,
Okay. What date did you move out, young man?
It was 14 months ago.
Well, give me a month.
June or July.
June or July. So let me see the bills after June or July. Let's do July.
Well, the deal was no crazy expenses. And
Mr. Kangas, listen to me very carefully, sir. I raised a lot of teenagers, and they are so creative with a credit card.
Yeah.
I didn't know for a very long time that when I gave a kid a gas credit card, that they could go in and get enough food for their entire dormitory in one of those gas places. I didn't know that. And I said, how could they use so much gas? The campus isn't that big. Where are you using all that gas? And then I realized that you can buy milk and juice and newspapers and cookies and snacks and eggs, and you can not only buy, listen, and you can not only buy it for yourself, but you could buy it for all your friends, because if you buy it for all your friends, they give you the cash.
Right.
Do you understand? Listen, Mr. Kangas, I know that that happens. I didn't sue my children. So what I want to see is, after he left, because it was clear to me that when you left, you should have left the credit card.
He did. I took it away from him.
And how did he use it?
I don't know how he got another one.
How did you use it, sir? Shh. Is not an answer.
I had the number on my computer still, so I could still make online purchases.
Okay. Now, Mr. Kangas, what's your first name?
Shane.
Shane. So let me explain this to you. The computer, sir, is yours because your father made a too soft a deal for me to have to figure out how many hours you worked and whether or not you paid for the computer with the work that you did for him. That's his problem. But you're a big boy. So you knew that when you moved out of the house and your father took the credit card from you, you were not supposed to use it, right? Is not an answer.
Sorry.
If he took the credit card from you, he said to you, what did he say? Give me the credit card, and if you need it, go look on your computer and get the number? Give me the fly swatter. Let me explain something to you. He's a computer hacker.
That's right.
And he's going to go into your bills, and if he has your social security number, he'll steal your identity, and all of a sudden you'll find that you bought 9 surfboards.
Then he took the credit card out of my ex-wife's purse and went back to spending it again.
Well, it doesn't say much for you, sir, that you raised a thief.
No, I feel it's the unexpected legacy of divorce.
That is a crock. That's not the legacy of divorce. I've been divorced, and I had children, and none of them are thieves. 5 of them. Nobody would go into my pocketbook and steal my credit card. So that's ridiculous.
Well, he's depressed, and I feel that...
He's depressed?
Yeah, he's got a
He's
lack
depressed.
of
He's a
motivation.
thief. That's not being depressed. Look at him. Does he look depressed to you? He doesn't look depressed to me.
He's got a lack of
A little
motivation.
high, maybe, but not depressed. Right, Shane?
No.
Really?
Really?
Really? I see $849 on the credit card after July.
Unfortunately, I put all of the receipts in a special envelope, put it in a special place, and then I couldn't find it, so that by the time I got here, that's what I had. I understand. I should have had better control of my file.
No, you should have better control of your son.
That
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $849.
Toner Showalter, parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
All right, here's another one of those convoluted cases where I need a road map just to get through the papers. Let me see if I've managed to, at least in some small measure, dissect it. You and your fiancé worked for this gentleman.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose name is?
Gary Toner, Your Honor.
He also worked for him.
Yes, Your Honor.
He had a car that he wanted to sell. You agreed to buy the car.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your story. You made payments on the car.
Yes, Your Honor.
You repaired the car.
Yes,
He
Your
gave
Honor.
you the title to the car.
Yes.
Gave you the registration to the car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then one day, your fiancé, who was using the car to make pizza deliveries, because that's what Mr. Toner does, he's in the pizza business.
Yes, Your Honor.
He got robbed
Yes.
at gunpoint.
Yes, Your Honor.
After making a whole bunch of deliveries, he had about $800 with him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Toner didn't believe that Mr. Green got robbed.
Yes, Your Honor.
So they came and took your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you want your car back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Showalter, he says, I never sold him my car. He says, Mr. Toner and I let Mr. Green use the car, sort of like a rental, for work and for pleasure and to make our pizza deliveries. And when he got robbed, we took the car back because we figured he wasn't going to be working for us anymore, so they took it back.
Yes, ma'am.
You got this so far?
I'm trying to keep up.
Try to keep up. Try to keep up. And Mr. Toner has a cross-complaint. He says he wants the money back that Mr. Green stole because he didn't get robbed. He stole the money and also a cell phone that was the business cell phone that you allegedly have. That's your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When did you purchase this car, Miss Mitchell?
I purchased the vehicle in September of 2004.
For how much?
The total was $1,670, Your Honor.
How did you pay for it?
Mr. Toner, seeing I was an employee of his, a full-time employee, he deducted $200 from my weekly wages, which was every Tuesday. I have a record here of every week that my money was taken out of my check. Thank you. The top page is the original, then I rewrote it just so you would understand it better.
Well, this says cash payment.
Your Honor, it was off the books. While I was with Mr. Toner for 3 years, I was paid off the books. That's just how things were done.
It's not totally true, Your Honor.
It's not what?
Not totally true, Your Honor.
It's enough true so that the IRS is going to be interested in this case. Everybody perk up. Perk up, perk up. Off this. You know something? If I keep going along like this, Bert, I'm going to balance the budget. How many months did you have the car?
I purchased the car September 2004, and the last time I seen the vehicle was January 1st of 2005, New Year's Eve.
I would like to see when you purchased the car from Mr. Showalter. So I don't know why you were paying Mr. Toner.
May I say something, please?
Yeah.
I never purchased the vehicle from Mr. Showalter. Mr. Toner bought the vehicle at the city public auction and sold it to me because I was an employee.
So Mr. Toner, it was Mr. Toner's car?
Yes, ma'am. He purchased it at the auction.
Let me see the paperwork he gave you in either September or later.
Mr. Toner never gave me the paperwork. I was given a title in September by Mr. Showalter.
Well, let me see it.
They have the title. They did a duplicate of it and stopped the title at the DMV, ma'am.
Well, I want to see what paperwork you have that is evidence of this,
okay. As far
of
as
the
my
sale.
receipts and all, I don't have a bill of sales. Mr. Toner never gave me a bill of sales, Your Honor. The proof I have are all the receipts for the 93 Intrepid. It's stated on all these receipts.
Let me see.
Also, I have the police report, Your Honor.
Just a second, just a second, just a second. So I have parts for the car.
There's also a receipt in there, Your Honor.
And then you had the windows
Yes.
tinted? Brake pads. Well, why would they make all these repairs on a car that they didn't own?
The arrangement that apparently they had with Mr. Showalter was they would maintain the vehicle. He's using it, making a lot of money with it, and he'd maintain the vehicle.
Well, didn't he work for you?
Yes.
You paid him?
Yes.
How much?
Oh, God, depending on how many deliveries he took, maybe $100 a day.
I thought the car didn't belong to Mr. Showalter. I thought the car belonged to you.
No, I purchased the vehicle from an auction, and I then sold it to Mr. Showalter.
Can I see the title to the car, please? You say in your complaint, madam, that
Yes.
Mr. Showalter gave you the title to the car, signed it, and sent it to the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Tim signed it, and yes, we did send it to DMV.
Why didn't you get a copy of that? Where is it?
It never came back in the mail, Your Honor. And I do have Mr. Showalter on tape stating that they pulled a flim-flam on us, that they...
Oh, well, I'd love to hear that he pulled a flim-flam.
May I play it?
Sure.
Legit. Okay? Gary went behind my back and ordered a new title.
All right, he told me that you did all of that.
He ordered the new title, had it sent in. Okay? Told me he was going to take the car on you. I said, I don't want no part of it because me and you were down.
Oh no, but he the one said that you the one planned everything. Had the car moved, took it off the lot.
Why would I take the car from you? I didn't care. If you got robbed or anything from the pizzeria, why would I care? Why would I take it's going to get another title? He said he ordered a title. He was going to take your car. I said, Gary, you can't. Everything's in my name. He goes, I got ways to do everything.
Yeah, and I know because the car was paid in full. You know what I'm saying?
Just a second. Explain yourself.
I told her whatever she wanted to hear. I'm tired of conflicts.
No, listen. No. You hear the groans out there? They're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to do that.
I told her whatever she wanted to hear. Every time she calls me, I go into her place of business. She threatens me just to get her off my back. So I told her what she wanted to hear.
Listen to me. Not only is he going to get into trouble with the IRS for paying people off the books, but you're going to get into trouble for lying to me.
I'm not lying, Your Honor.
Sure you are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What does that mean if you still have any money outstanding?
Paying for the car. He was behind insurance at that point by 1 month.
You know that you thought of that very, very fast, sir, but you
No,
already
sir.
put
No,
but
no,
you
no,
already
Your Honor, that's
but you
the truth.
already put your foot in your mouth.
And later today,
her boyfriend had called and threatened my life and threatened my family's
This
life.
boyfriend?
I don't know who it is. I've never seen him.
This is probably the boyfriend. You the boyfriend?
Just a friend.
Just a friend.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sharice Mitchell and her boyfriend Timothy Green II claim their former employer, Gary Toner, and his friend David Showalter Jr. hope for the return of a '93 Dodge Intrepid. Gary says he fired Timothy because he faked a robbery.
You had a conversation with him, and you pretty much apologized to him because your boss did the wrong thing.
No, we did order. I did order another title because I was afraid I'd get screwed over. I was never getting my money on time for anything. I was tired of...
What does that mean, you weren't getting your money on time? What does that mean, Mr. Showalter?
We had an arrangement. I was supposed to have the money on the 1st. I was never
Just a second. You weren't getting your money on time for what?
The payments for the insurance and the car payment for renting it.
Not renting it. That's not what you said.
That's
not what you said. You said, I was afraid I was going to not get my money on time. I was afraid I was going to get screwed.
Can I explain how this unfolded?
Do I need to hear it?
Yes.
No, okay. I don't need to hear it. I think that what you did was you think that he planned a robbery, concocted a story about a robbery to steal the money that he collected for pizza deliveries on December 31st.
That's right.
And you knew you weren't going to get your money back. You knew you weren't going to get your money from him because you really had no way of proving that he staged this robbery.
He agreed to pay it back.
Before or after you took his car?
After the car was removed.
And that's how it unfolded. So you took his car, and it was his car. Now we're going to get to your counterclaim. Tell me about... He says he was robbed at gunpoint after he made a day's worth of deliveries. You say you don't believe that the way things unfolded, you think he did it. Now, the only thing I'm interested in is you say he promised to pay you back. Tell me about that.
He had agreed to pay back the...
Tell me where it happened, when it happened, and what the discussion was.
It happened on the 31st, December, New Year's Eve. And I received a call at my house, probably midnight or so, saying that the store manager called me and said that he was robbed. And I said to the store manager, well, I had checked with you through the evening, and you had said he'd made drops periodically. And how is it he was robbed for the figure he then told me, $880? That's impossible. And I said, okay, I'm coming in. I'm on the way in. En route, I then called Mr. Showalter and said, I think he's pulling something here.
Go grab the car.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what your situation is with the
absolutely.
vehicle.
You can't do that. It's his car.
No, it's Mr. Showalter's car, Your Honor.
No.
Okay.
No.
So on the way
That's
in,
what we're here to determine, sir.
Okay.
And I'm telling you right now, after I heard that tape, I have determined it's her car.
Okay. So then on the way in...
You took it as hostage.
No, that's not true, Your Honor.
Sure. Well, but what prompted you to take the car at that point, sir?
Oh, I didn't take the car. I simply mentioned to Dave, if you still have money outstanding, you might want to consider taking back your vehicle. Because Steve's probably going to lose his job.
Just a second. What does that mean if you still have any money outstanding?
Paying for the car. He was behind insurance at that point by 1 month.
You know that you thought of that very, very fast, sir, but you
No,
already
sir.
put
No,
but
no,
you
no,
already
Your Honor, that's
but
the
you
truth.
already put your foot in your mouth. If they're behind at all in the car, you better go get it. Go ahead.
So I came in. I picked up T, who was at the restaurant. We then drove to the location.
Would you please just tell me when he told you he would pay you back?
It was right then, that night.
Well, tell me about the discussion about I'm going to do...
Drove to the location, realized it was nowhere near his delivery route. It was the last run of the evening. The last delivery of the last run didn't add up. He's in a very bad part of town. I said, what are you doing way over here? He said, well, I'm going to get gas. I said, well, there's stations en route to here. He said, well, they were busy. I said, well, what happened? Why'd you get out of the car with all this money in your pocket? He said, people threw eggs at my car and I went out to fight them.
Yeah, and?
Yeah. So I told him, it doesn't make sense. We got back to the pizzeria. At that point, David Showalter had removed his car. And T said, where's the car? And I said, the car is removed. And you're fired because I don't believe you.
Okay.
So then a conversation unfolded in the back room where he said, I'm sorry, I'll pay you back. I said, why don't you just tell me the truth? Just tell me you staged it. Tell me you pocketed the money. Because I've had problems with T.
Just a second. So what did he say?
He'd pay back the money.
Is that what you told him?
No.
What did you tell him?
He said I wasn't going to get the car back unless I pay back the money. I ended up working 2 days for free.
It's not true, Ron.
Did you say to him at that point in the back room, all right, I'll pay you back the money?
Yes, because he told me I couldn't get the car back unless I paid back the money.
True, Ron.
I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. Don't believe you? Don't believe you. Okay. Where's the car now?
Do not know, Your Honor. It was robbed. Have the police report?
Let me see it, please. Did they ever recover it?
Not yet, Your Honor.
I don't like a bunch of fibbers. I think there's a little bit of truth to what you say. I think that they probably didn't fully pay you for the car at the time that the car was taken. I don't know whether you were robbed or not, but I certainly...
Excuse me, I do have a police report for the robbery, Your Honor.
It's okay. Did they find anybody?
No, Your Honor.
It just is his statement that he was robbed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
It also made the newspaper. It's crime-infested there, where the pizzeria is. So.
And it's also more
Listen,
on the
Mr. Toner is skeptical about people telling him the truth. He's skeptical about people being shortcut artists, right?
Absolutely. There's a bit of history as well with T.
Well, are you a shortcut artist, Mr. Toner?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sharice Mitchell and her boyfriend Timothy Green II claim their former employer, Gary Toner, and his friend David Showalter Jr. hope for the return of a '93 Dodge Intrepid. Gary says he fired Timothy because he faked a robbery.
All I want to know about is the cell phone. Where is the cell phone?
I have the receipt here. It's, I believe it to be still in Timothy's possession.
No, I don't have it. I gave it back.
To whom?
To who'd you give it to?
Back to the
Don't
pizzeria.
speak to him. Who'd you give it to?
Back to the store manager.
Who was that?
That would be Ricky.
When did you give it back to Ricky?
2 weeks. 2 weeks later, after my phone had got turned back on, because I was keeping in contact with him about the car.
About what? Getting the car back?
That I was gonna get the car back. Now the car ended up getting stolen. I even got more on the tape.
Got it. Okay, counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Some people say I was robbed. I could say, go down the street, throw money out my pocket, say I got robbed.
Pizzeria's been robbed 4 times within the last month.
Drivers have $20 in their pocket in singles. If they're robbed, you throw the money and you go the other way.
I never heard of nothing like that.
Customers had called and said that he came to the door smelling like marijuana.
Me and the manager, the other manager was jolly smoking, you know what I mean?
I'm just grateful that the judge seen that I was telling this truth and seen right through Mr. Toner, Mr. Showalter.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lay versus Costa. Step forward.
20-year-old sales rep Jason Lay is suing his former co-worker, homemaker Sandra Costa, for stopping payment on a car he sold her. Sandra says the vehicle broke down the day after she bought it.
How old are you, Miss Costa?
31.
Married or single?
Single.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
4.
How do you support them?
I've been getting jobs. I just had my last baby not too long ago, in last April, and I was just starting to get back on the roll of getting back to work.
Does the father of these children live with you?
No, he doesn't. Actually, he just passed away in November.
Did any of the children get death benefits?
They will be.
You've had cars before?
Yes.
You've bought used cars before?
Yes.
Okay. This is what this case is about. Mr. Lay sold you a used car for $500.
Right.
And it broke down either on the way home or the next day.
Right.
Was it on the way home or the next day?
It was the very next day.
But you drove the car from his house to your house?
Yes.
How many miles was that?
Give or take about 50 or 60 miles.
Broke down. And then you stopped payment on the check.
After 4 days after he had said he would be there.
And you want your money?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you had the car?
About a month and a half before I sold it to her.
Who did you buy it from?
I bought it from a friend of mine.
For how much?
$350.
Did you do anything to the car?
Yes, when I got it, it wasn't running, so I put some spark plugs, wires, that kind of thing, just made it to where it was running pretty good. And I'd actually planned on keeping it. When she was working with me, she told me that she needed a car pretty bad, so I decided to sell it to her.
Okay. Miss Costa, you can't stop payment on the check.
Your Honor, he never gave me a bill of sale, a receipt, or a title for the vehicle.
So what? Listen, you can't make up excuses, Miss Costa. Buying a used car from someone privately is always a risk. Always. Buying a car from somebody for $500 is a very big risk. And in this country, we have the words, they're in Latin. I'll tell you what they are. It's called caveat emptor, and it means let the buyer beware. When you buy a used car from somebody for $500, you don't expect it to keep running. If it does, you've really prayed good. You owe them $500. All the rest of the stuff that you want, you can't get. Your aggravation, your lost wages,
Well, Your Honor, it was
punitive
more...
damages, harassment.
It was more the harassment charge because of the tape that I have right here. Her boyfriend had called after this incident had happened and had threatened my life, had threatened my family's life.
This boyfriend?
I don't know who it is. I've never seen him. I've only heard him on my voicemail. He had called up me a voicemail threatening me and my family's life, and I was very threatened of it.
But not her.
Well,
She didn't call.
it was her and her boyfriend that was there. He even says on the
Listen
tape.
to me. Listen to me. This is probably the boyfriend. You the boyfriend?
Just a friend.
Just a friend. Are you the friend that went and picked her up and got the car?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're the friend?
Yes.
You mean she has a boyfriend other than you?
She don't have a boyfriend.
Then it must be you.
No, she has a friend.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $500. That's all.